after the new Call of Duty.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Welcome to the Backstage. We are live. If guys, you want to go ahead and check and make sure, refresh, hit the button. I even played the music for 30 seconds for you guys this morning to get a little vibe going. It's Saturday morning. Like Pong just mentioned Backstage. It's like Christmas. I just got excited out of nowhere. I forgot that the open beta for the Modern Warfare 2 is this weekend. Now, mind you, I've been playing Modern Warfare 2 since well, of course, back in the day, but we've been playing the beta here recently over the last couple of days. And yes, of course, you do need to buy the games to get into the beta. But this weekend they are having an open beta to where you don't have to buy the game. So at least that's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that should be how open betas work, right? So hopefully there's no issues with that. Hopefully everybody gets to jump in and have a good time. I'm going to sit here and let you guys know right now, and we'll talk about it during the show. But guys, Backstage, this is, now, mind you, this is just a nugget for you guys here because the audio listeners aren't going to get this. But my hot take for the day, and I'll probably have another one here soon because some people have been saying some interesting things. But my hot take for the day so far is going to be, this is the best Call of Duty that has been out since, I want to say, Black Ops 2. Easily. It's not even debatable to me. And I know you see people returning it and people say, oh, this isn't great. Look, man, I'm here to tell you I had a rough time when I first booted up the game. I also hadn't played the multiplayer for Call of Duty, just the multiplayer, in a while, since about Black Ops 2, seriously. So now jumping into this beta, kind of getting that mojo back, getting feel for the guns, it literally feels like Modern Warfare 2 used to kind of feel back in the day. The other thing that I noticed too is that it does have a new flair on it though, because it also reminds me of classic Rainbow Six, which is something that is also extremely interesting to me because, I mean, of course, Rainbow Six is one of the grandfathers of all of this, right? So, but some people may consider that, some people may not, but Rainbow Six has been around since the beginning. But I say that because of the more seemingly tactical approach to the game, right? Now that's just me. And I know people were also saying, hey, you can't run a gun. Oh, I don't like it because I can't run a gun. Now, I was doing some running and gunning. And I have been watching other people doing some running and gunning. Of course, though in this game, it just feels more purposeful. And I haven't felt that from a Call of Duty multiplayer in a while. Again, since Black Ops 2. So that's kind of what I'm kind of comparing to here. I typically don't play Call of Duty for the story, but I will be playing it this time because I'm invested now, right? The beta's got me fully interested. I didn't play the first campaign in 2019 of Modern Warfare because I thought it was the same story, so I will end up playing through that sometime here soon. So expect some gameplay on that. Let me get this Thymesia playing for you guys in the background because I do have some of that playing today also. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the beta, man. Paul, I mean, how you feeling? What can you tell the people who are here now behind the scenes with us?
I've been saying it for a while now. Still, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday to everyone. Happy open beta for all of you that's been waiting to hop into some Modern Warfare 2. Listen, I've been saying it for a while now, and I think this beta has confirmed it. As long as Infinity Ward does not screw this one up, which is always a possibility when it comes to Call of Duties, but Infinity Ward are the masters. They are my favorite Call of Duty developer of all time. And I think that this is going to be the biggest seller they've ever had, especially with a 2-year run. We don't get a new Call of Duty next year. They're going to be supporting this thing.
Right.
Everything that Steele just said is pretty much spot on for me as well. I think that I still have enjoyed Call of Duties. I enjoyed Cold War a lot. I enjoyed World War II a lot.
Right.
I didn't play Modern Warfare 2019 when it came out. I had taken a break from Call of Duty. I kind of got tired of it. And I know everybody said, well, you should have played Modern Warfare 2019. It's the best one out there. Listen, I was burnt. and I just didn't feel like it. I really didn't. But hopping back into this beta, this is the most excited I've been for Call of Duty in a long, long, long time. The way that this game plays, like Steele said, you can run and gun.
Yeah.
You can. You are with the footsteps, and they're still tweaking the sound on this as far as the footsteps goes. They turned it down from the PlayStation beta. It does punish you. You are going to be at high risk if you've got a bunch of people who know what they're doing and listening for you. So there is some slower paced moments, which I actually enjoy. I actually think that there is a benefit to playing slower paced.
Yeah.
But my biggest thing, Steele, my biggest thing
Mm-hmm.
is the maps. The map design of what we're seeing out of the beta, and we're playing all new maps.
Yeah, I was gonna say, mind you, they didn't bring none of the old maps back yet.
No, these are all new maps. This is for me personally. Now, everybody can disagree because everybody's got their thing with maps. Everybody likes certain things about certain. This is the most creative set of maps that I've seen come out of a Call of Duty that play. All of them play different,
right?
But all of them play extremely well. Each map, like each individual map. Like I have almost zero issues with any of these maps. I just think this is some of Infinity Ward's best work in a long time. I just cannot believe. And if this is an indicator of what we're going to get for the full game, this by far is going to be the best Call of Duty of all time. And that's not even counting Warzone or any of that stuff as well. Warzone.
Yeah, no, that's going to be add-ons,
That's going to be all add. But again, love the new modes. Loving the invasion mode. I was playing invasion mode. Stu was online with me, but he wasn't playing. But I was playing invasion mode, which is the new 20v20 mode, and then they drop in 20 bots on top of that as well. Reminds me so much, and I thought this is what it was going to do when the descriptor came out. It reminds me of Titanfall in a lot of ways. It reminds me of Titanfall. You get the points for killing. There's the bots running around, but it takes you longer to build up, but you can still build up your perks. You can still build up your score streaks. It just takes longer as killing bots. But man, is that a fun mode as well. And let me tell you, that's going to be the mode people use to level up their weapons. It is there's something to kill at all times in that mode. So, great beta so far. We played a lot of it, Steel, put a lot of hours in already. I think I'm at level 22 or 23 now. Max level cap is 30. Can't wait to see what Infinity Ward's got planned in the future. I'm loving it.
Yeah, man, and it's the definition of good. It's just crazy, bro, because I wasn't necessarily expecting it. Again, I'm all on the heels of saying that Call of Duty is kind of dead in the water at this point. I will say that I don't know how they're going to move forward from after Modern Warfare 2, because this will be peak for Call of Duty, at least in my belief. There will not be anything better, especially with everything that they're planning on adding on, which is perfect, right? Because this is going to be the one that they drop, and then there won't be another one for 2 years. So that puts us right around 2024 when we get another Call of Duty, and that's going to be really dope. So you get to really live with one, really enjoy it. It really reminds me of back in the day when Call of Duty 4 first dropped, and that multiplayer just lit the scene on fire, bro. That's how I'm feeling about this game. Again, I wish the level cap was higher, you know what I mean? I gotta grind it out, but hey, it is what it is. The game's right around the corner, so we don't have to wait for too long. But man, again, if you're unsure about Call of Duty, maybe you slept on it for a bit like me, and you're just like, man, I'm tired of this, bro. Like, I need something else. I would say this is the time to jump back into it. Again, another thing too, which is it's a plus and a negative. And the reason I say this is because this is the same feeling that I had when Halo Infinite came out, right? The game felt great, felt magnificent, carried over from the beta. I was like, God damn, this is fucking exactly what I wanted. The only difference, though, I think the main difference I mean, of course, they got like 10 studios working on this one game versus, and it's Activision, right? And that kind of says something versus like where you look at Microsoft, you're like, damn, like, why didn't you guys throw more hands on deck or Halo if it was in that dire straits, right? But that's why why you have those conversations of management, people not proper communication going on. But you can't have, like, at least Activision understood that, hey, if we don't put out Call of Duty, we might go under. Like, let's throw everybody on it. And no, you can't make whatever game you want. I don't care about your ideas. How about these hands on these control? How about this hands on this gun on this guy on Call of Duty? Can you help with that? Oh, okay. That's what we want right now. So that is a vast difference, and it's also, a company trying to thrive for its name, which is another reason why I think Modern Warfare 2 is going to do as well as I'm anticipating, is because you see that effort that's put in. But it's like, at what point is it like a give and take, right? This was their, I feel like them doing Modern Warfare 2 was their last ditch effort of, okay, we need to write this shit. Because if we don't, I don't know what else we're gonna do, guys. Like, I don't know. At least that's the way it comes across to me a little bit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, Steel, again, nowadays, like you said, we've seen great launches and that kind of stuff, and this is kind of new territory for Call of Duty as well, because they've been that yearly release, right? So to have now the team's got to support it for an extra year,
right?
So we got to see, we got to see how that works out for them, and what they've decided to do and how they're going to actually do that. Because if this does turn out being the biggest Call of Duty of all time, which I've said it's going to be, if it does, where do they go from here? How are they going to lay the roadmap? What does that new Call of Duty in 2024 look like? How is that, like, if this becomes the biggest Call of Duty of all time, right? And they said that this one is laying the groundwork for all future Call of Duties. What does that mean? Are we seeing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 turn into the platform? Are we seeing it turn into the games as a service style game where they come in and just expand it out? Or are we going to go back? We're not going to go back to World War II. There's no way they're going to do that. Are they going to go back to Black Ops? I mean, what are they going to do at this point? So I think it is interesting, Steel, to see how they're going to make this happen. But the big thing for Infinity Ward, I think, is to not break this game like Cold War. Like Cold War, they tried to fix. They didn't fix some things. The things that they did fix broke other things. People were constantly going, what are you guys doing? What is going on? Fix this damn game. Like, that's going to be the key to success for this one, is like, how are you going to make sure that you're keeping it fresh, that you're fixing the little issues, on top of Warzone 2.0 when that launches? How are you guys going to make sure that the multiplayer, the classic multiplayer, continues to live and lives up to the hype? I think that it is an interesting question on how they're going to do it. I was just looking up stuff, Steel, as far as the open beta goes for people. So 12 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central Time, excuse me. And we'll go 10 p.m. Pacific Time, 12 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The Modern Warfare 2 open beta goes live. I also didn't know this. You're going to open up things for the real game, too, it sounds like.
Really?
Yeah, it sounds like... Yeah, Modern Warfare 2 beta rewards. Activision offers 10 different reward items earned by leveling up in the beta, including 2 weapon blueprints and an operator skin. Okay, the rewards will only be available to unlock during the beta. The developers confirmed that the beta rewards would also be available in Warzone 2. Warzone 2.0. So you get an emblem, a charm, player cards, sticker, weapon blueprint, operator skin, vinyl, another sticker, a vehicle skin, and the final weapon blueprint. Okay. So you are opening up stuff for the actual game itself, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't tell, we're excited. There's a ton of things to talk about this week. Again, especially coming off the heels of last week, there's just multiple things that we can get into. A lot of smoke getting thrown around again. PlayStation, Microsoft just seem to be going neck and neck at it. Tencent's getting some talent. We could say maybe it's maybe equal to like the Michael Jordan what's going on in here, man? But other than that, let's get to it. We got to get it to the audio listeners too. So thank you all for being here. If you are here with us now, please go ahead and hit that like button for us. It don't cost nothing. Go into your mama's room, tell her to jump on the phone, find Living Splitscreen, hit the like button for us. If she thinks something cute, that's cool. That'll help out. Maybe she likes Pong, and you get a little Pong action. Either way, you're gonna get that rain and soul for your early morning and going into your afternoon, man. So welcome to the weekend. This is Living Splitscreen, episode 74. Audio. Let's get into the audio listeners, man. Let me tee this up, as they would say. Tee up the music. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Snap. You know I had to play it for a little extra time this Saturday morning, Sunday. I'm just trying to skip it to the future on us. God dang. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Living Splitscreen. You are on episode 74 of Living Splitscreen. We're here to give it to you live, raw, uncut, passionate, and just as authentic. I can't talk this morning, as you can tell. I'm all over the place. Paul's gonna have to save me at some point. I might keel over in my chair. I don't know what's going on. I think between me and Paul, we'll probably morph together and make this show something amazing. So hopefully you guys are in tune here, because things were going just fine with me speaking behind the scenes. But as things go, gotta shake it out, right? It's been a cool week, man. Again, personally, things are kind of all over the place, but nonetheless, gaming is here. That passion, that hobby that a lot of people still think is just some child's toy, man. And that's definitely something I want to bring up during today's conversation, because I do find that interesting still. But I am one of your hosts, Steel Rain, here to bring the pain, the one and only Steel Rain. The T is a 7. You can find me everywhere, whether it's Google, Twitter, YouTube, Xbox, where I frequent. Come check me out, man. Let's play some games. Let's run it. But got some beautiful things to talk about, man. And I have one of the most illustrious hosts with me also. He happens to be a brother from another from me. I call him the Uncanny Gentleman. He is the X-Men that is not Cyclops. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't get that confused. He is the one that'll come through and bag Rogue. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. My guy, Pong Steel, how you feeling, man?
I feel pretty good, Steel. All things considered, it's been a busy week. Still was out of work due to I wasn't out of work. I was working from home, so I got a little extra playtime in this week on the clock. I ain't gonna lie about that at all. You know how that goes, Steel. What they don't know won't hurt them. So got a little extra time. But no, it's been a great week. It's great to be back this week for Living Splitscreen, Steel. We have gotten some playtime in together, as we were talking behind the scenes. In the pre-show, Modern Warfare 2 has been all-consuming, but prior to Modern Warfare 2 beta, which again, I can't stop playing. I think it's freaking amazing. They do have some things to fix. Played some Deathloop this week.
Okay.
Got some hours into Deathloop. I probably got 6-7 hours into Deathloop. Now, nice. I've seen people say you can run this game in 5-6 hours if you know what you're doing, and if you want to run it straight through. Look, that's not how I play games, man. I don't run through stuff just to run through stuff. Mm-hmm. So for me, Deathloop is the arcaniest of arcane games, which is the biggest compliment I can probably give it at this point. This is a master class, and I understand why this game was divisive. Why there's some gamers, again, Arcane is always going to be like this. Like, they get the biggest critical reception you can get, and reviewers love it. They are like that small movie studio that puts out those movies that constantly are said 5 stars, must watch, all this kind of stuff. And then audiences are divided on it, right? Audiences, some people hate it. They are that classic type creators. And this game right here, I understand completely why some people just ain't about it. Because if you don't like Arcane, if you don't appreciate mechanics, if you don't appreciate the little details, if it's just not your style, you're not going to like it. It's not going to be anything new for you with Deathloop. But for me, as an Arcane fan, this game was worth the wait. It was a long wait, but I understand why it got a 10 out of 10s. I understand why it was up for Game of the Year, why it won some Game of the Year awards, a lot of them. I totally get it now. This game is special for me. And I think that, again, the level design, the classic Arcane mechanics that they've got in here with the powers, with the stuff that you can do, they give you an open level that you can tackle from about 25, 30 different ways, depending on how you want to play the game.
Right.
And I think that that's what's awesome. The character design is off the charts. I love Colt as the main character, Juliana as the antagonist. Listen, they are written and acted so well. I'm enjoying every single moment listening to them speak to each other. Listen, I just love Deathloop. I really do. The puzzles are awesome. They are very unique. Trying to figure out how you're going. Like, you get thrown in, you don't know what the hell's going on. You don't know what the hell's going on at all. And, like, you got to kind of figure your way out. You got to find all these clues throughout the levels. If you explore like I explore, you are rewarded by finding different new areas. You're rewarded by finding new puzzles, safes to crack that you got to go try to find the codes for, getting those weapons. It's roguelite at the same time. You've actually got to get to this puzzle, which I have yet to complete, but now I know what it is. You got to figure out this puzzle.
Yeah.
That'll give you the option to start carrying over some of your weapons and some of your powers and that kind of stuff, be able to keep them for the next day when you run through it again. It's awesome. I love Deathloop. Then the other game I got to shout out, Steel. Again, another game that's not going to be for everybody, but let me tell you, do not sleep on this game. It is in Game Pass. It is no risk. Hard Space Shipbreaker. I've talked about it here on this show. This is a big Jeff Grubb is a shout out to Grub. Big fan of this game. People were playing this on PC. It's got a big fan base. It is now on console. I didn't know what to expect. I saw it, of course. I'm in space. I said I was excited for it because it's a space game. I knew what the concept was, that you're cutting up these, old ships and whatever else, and you're salvaging. Steel, this game is my new go-to last game palate cleanser before bedtime. I absolutely love this game. It is chill, and when you first start out, you're going to think to yourself, well, it's kind of like Power Washer in space, right? It's kind of like Power. It's just one of those chill games. You're just cutting up ships, and you're just kind of collecting you're collecting the ships, and you got to kind of figure out how you're going to break apart the ship. But then as you level up, it ramps up. So you get to open up new certifications. Oh, okay. So all of a sudden you can handle hazardous materials like fuel cells. Then they open it up where you can handle, electrical, live electrical devices on these ships. So you got to be careful not to electrocute yourself. You start upgrading your suit. You start upgrading your all your different tools that you use to cut apart a ship. And then it just gets bigger and bigger from there. And you got to strategize, Steel, because you got all these different parts of the ship. Some of them go into a furnace. Some of them go into a barge down below you. Right. And then some of them go into a special, some of the metals that are valuable go into a different collection spot. And you have to figure out how you're going to cut apart the ship. And if you cut apart the ship, like if you say, okay, I want to take this piece because that piece has got to go into the metal collector. If you do that, well, you might wind up costing yourself some of the money off of the ship, because that's the whole thing. You're collecting money while you're cutting apart these ships, depending on the value of the pieces that you are collecting, right? So it becomes very strategized, and you got to decide if you're going to cut the ship apart from the outside, if you're going to go on the inside. You got to get rid of those flammables. You got to get rid of those fuel tanks because you don't want those suckers blowing up on you. All of that comes into play, and it's got this chill, like, kind of country future music in the background while you're playing too. But the controls at first are like, holy shit, there's a lot to think about because you're in space. You're floating in space.
Right.
You got a jetpack on, so you got to control your movements. You can flip upside down. If you move, you continue moving, so you got to control your movement while you're trying to control these big pieces with your tool, because you got like a gravity tool that kind of, you push the pieces around and stuff. All of that. So the controls at first are kind of overwhelming, but the way they set them up becomes second nature. They become intuitive. So, and all of a sudden you're just rocking and rolling, man. And you could still get disoriented. You're in the middle of this space. So like all of a sudden you're floating upside down. And you're like, where the hell am I? What am I doing? All of it's there. It's a fun game. Do not sleep on hard space Shipbreaker. Try it, download it, see if it's for you. Again, it's not going to be for everybody, but it is an awesome, awesome game from Focus Entertainment. Absolutely having a blast with that game. So yeah, that's been my week, Steel. Kind of went on long there, but those two games deserve it. Deathloop and Hard Space Shipbreaker. On top of the Modern Warfare 2 beta as well, Steel. So what you been into besides the beta, man? Anything else different this week?
I mean, other than the Modern Warfare 2 beta, as you guys might see in the background, again, for your audio listeners, you guys got to come check us out live. I do have some gameplay of Thymesa playing. I did jump into that, man, for quite some time. I think I got about 3 to 4 hours in it, and I was actually having a good time. It's one of those games that you could consider Souls-like. It's very straightforward, classic style where you're clearing out a level, you get to a boss, you have to fight that boss. There is no getting around. For sure, you could go back through the level, fight the enemies again, or whatever the case may be, but that's what it is. A little bit more about the game. It's an action RPG, fast-paced combat, and it is based off an intricate plague weapon system. So essentially, you'll have your combos, and you do damage to the enemies. And you can continue to do damage to the enemies that way, but the game promotes you to use this other system that takes additional damage away from the enemies, more like permanent damage, right? So it's like a disease-based system. If you've dealt with poison or blood or anything that does like a damage over time effect to an enemy, it's the same concept, except that effect takes more life away quicker. So if you want to kill an enemy faster, you want to use both systems. Not just you want to use the regular combat and this plague or disease-based system that you known as Corvus, because that's the character's name. As you're moving through these memories and everything, you're a witch doctor apparently, whatever the case may be, and you have these disease abilities that you can use. I haven't got too far into the game to really understand what's going on with the story or why this is going on, other than, hey, I got memories, I can't remember nothing, I'm fighting stuff, and I'm having a good time with it, because it's not what you would expect. It's not slow Souls. It's fast-paced action. Your guy's gonna end up seeing me get beat up on by this boss at least 10 times. Got at least, and I made sure to record it because I want people to understand what triumph looks like, right? These are the reasons why people like me, why people like Elden Ring, why people like the Souls genre, because it has become a genre now, that play style of games, although we've had games that were like that since the beginning, right? Mario was like that. You had so many lives and you had to start the whole game over. You know what I mean? So there are so many games that used to be like that, but it's more known as a Souls-like genre, because that's how these games are played. It's just a different approach on it, man, and I'm really enjoying it. It's different. Other than that, yeah, it's definitely been all about that Call of Duty Modern Warfare beta. I haven't been really into much else. Because just depending on what I'm trying to play, that's kind of where I'm at, and also what the wife is playing. Because if she's playing Grounded, well, and it also, again, it just depends on what's going on. Because I'm not about to just go get another more space for my Xbox when I also have a PC to play on that has ample amount of space. That's why I built it this way. So I'm like in between both sides, between my Xbox, between the PC, playing these different games. But I haven't been able to get into much else, man. I've been wanting to play some more 2K, do some more My Team, but I haven't been able to get back into that. And it's just been kind of, that's it. Preparing for stuff behind the scene, prepping for school, and playing music and Call of Duty, man, which I'm excited to get back into this afternoon. It's gonna be a good time for sure. Other than that, man, yeah, that's been pretty much it. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you are here with us right now, please go ahead and hit that like button. Greatly appreciate you for being here. Again, don't know where we'd be without you guys. I mean, again, yeah, I do. We'd probably be in a party or at some point just chopping it up, talking to ourselves. But we greatly appreciate you guys being here and enjoying that. But
a shout out to the wife for jumping in here too for the first time ever. Allie79, she jumped in here. Video games are not her bag, folks, but she is here checking us out live. Appreciate you, my dear. Thank you so much.
No, that's super dope. That is mad dope. That's what I figured. So I was like, hey, but no, that's super dope. And I agree. They shouldn't have country music in gaming. I don't like country music. It needs to. No, I'm not going to say that.
But this is like, you know me.
No, I got
you. I don't like 99% of country either, but it fits the mood. Like you're doing some hard labor, like some blue collar work up in space, so it kind of fits it in a way. And it's not like over the top. It's kind of in the background. I actually wish they would allow you like back in the day to plug in your own music.
Bro, I miss that feature.
Yeah, I miss that a lot. And this is like the perfect game for it because you're isolated. Like, yeah, you have a dude like you're kind of your boss in a way, or your manager in a way that comes on and kind of gives you some tips or talks to you a little bit. But otherwise, it's just you and the ship, man, and your tools, and you're just cutting, right? And there's not a whole lot of sound because it's space, right? So having some music, yeah, exactly.
That is so funny. That is so funny. But I guess with that, let's get into these upcoming games. I know there's at least a few things coming up here. We can get that knocked down. We can jump into some things. I think I will jump into something off rip. I probably hits a little bit closer to home, just because it's something that came up in conversation this week, and I really wanted to be a little bit different before we get into the hot and spicy, and just get your take on it, Pong, because I think that'd be interesting, and maybe get some of the chat involved too. So let me get these games set up. Are you good to go on that, my good sir?
Yeah, I'm good to go on that. And sorry, chat. Love you all, and I see you all out there as well. Tech-wise, I'm a little limited at the moment, so I can't do as much as I normally would chatting-wise. So you're just gonna have to bear with me through it. So trying to fix the issues on the back end side of things. Hopefully I can get something figured out because we in trouble at this point. So but I do see you all and love you all, so appreciate you all being here for today. So this week in gaming, that's right, we are starting out, this is going to be starting the week of September the 26th already. So on September the 27th, Grounded officially launches, Steel. Grounded 1.0 is officially out. Obviously, this has become a big game for Microsoft and Xbox. It started out as a passion project. That's why Steel and I will never down developers for doing what they love, and not just making AAA big home run games that, of course, everybody wants. Grounded turned out as a passion project. It now has turned into this big deal. I mean, we're talking about, what did Booty say? Over 10 million players already now, something like that. So Grounded's going to be big for them going forward. This is like the Sea of Thieves. This is like the new Sea of Thieves, right? So Grounded officially launches September 27th. Of course, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC. And then we got a game called Hoko Life. coming out to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC also on September 27th. This is a simulation type game. It looks like it's going to be that farming, fishing, kind of adventure game simulation from Team 17, developed by WonderScope. Hey, it's got a big fan base. They pump out a lot of those games, and they obviously are supported. I don't know what else to say because people keep coming out with them. So Hoko Life coming out September 27th. Life is Strange Remastered Collection, of course, huge game for a lot of people. The heavy narrative-driven style game that people do enjoy. Again, I never got into Life is Strange, but I understand completely. People love this game, and it's finally coming to Switch on September 27th, the remastered collection. So Switch people are finally going to be able to jump into that, and I'm sure it's going to do quite well on Switch. Perfect game for Switch over there. Right up a lot of that fan base's alley. So Life is Strange Remastered Collection. The Fridge is Red. You heard me correct. The Fridge is Red, coming to PC on September 27th. This is an adventure game developed by 5word and published by Tiny Build. Looks like it's got some horror to it, maybe. It's got zombie hams coming out of the fridge. So, yeah, the fridge is red. Sounds like it's going to be painted red with blood, is by the looks of it. Then we got The Legend of Heroes, Trails from Zero, coming to PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC also on the 27th. This absolutely looks like it is a part of the Trails series, which is obviously a big JRPG. This looks like a spin-off. This is developed by Falcom, published by NIS, of course. They publish all the Trails games and develop some of the Trails games. It is an RPG. According to this as well. So new entry into the Trails series. Again, we haven't had the pleasure of getting a lot of Trails games yet over in the West on Xbox, but hopefully that's changing soon. We saw TGS was a big W and for Xbox, and Phil and Sarah are doing a ton of work over there. So maybe we'll eventually get all the Trails games on Xbox. I'd love to see that. Great series. Tunic. Of course, Tunic launched on Xbox, but it is finally coming to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and Switch as well. This is the Souls-like Zelda game. Love the little fox dude. I got to get back to this game at some point. Like I admitted, I was playing in God mode because they give you accessibility features, and I was just there for the story and to check out this little fox dude and check out all the levels and that kind of stuff. But if you don't play on God mode, if you play on the regular mode, this game's tough. You got to learn... you got to learn your enemies. You got to learn their movements. You got to learn their attacks. So Tunic was a big hit on Xbox, and now it's coming everywhere else as well on September 27th. And then we're getting Deathverse Let It Die, PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. This is an action game from Super Trick Games. Gung Ho Online Entertainment is the publisher.
Didn't hear about this one.
No, I didn't hear about this one. It's coming to PC on October 5th. I like the artwork that they got showing here, man.
Hey, if anybody in chat knew about this one, let us know, man. I didn't know. Are you excited for this?
Yeah, let us know what it's about. And then we've got Brewmaster. That's coming on 28th, by the way. Then we got Brewmaster coming to PC. Let me guess. Yes, it is a simulation game. We're going to be brewing beer. You're absolutely 100% correct. If you figured that out by the title, so did I. So Brewmaster coming to PC.
They showed that in the gameplay too. They showed gameplay.
Did they show gameplay of it?
Showcases, yeah. Okay. That's what you're literally doing. Is
you're brewing indie beers, right? Yeah, that's what you're doing. Nice. Okay. Dorf Romantic coming to Switch on September 29th. I had to take a look at that name again. Dorf Romantic. That's right, Dorf Romantic. It's a puzzle game from Tucana Interactive and published by Tucana Interactive. This has been, it's been out on PC since April 28th, and it is now coming to Switch on the 29th of September. So new puzzle game coming for everybody. Then we got Let's Build a Zoo coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch on September 29th, and this is dropping into Game Pass as well.
This is from... Again, I know people say games aren't coming, and it might not be for you, but there are games coming to Game Pass all the time, man.
Yes, sir. And they're not always going to be for you, but this game looks awesome. I love these types of games. Of course, this is a zoo simulation game, right? It is what it says it is in the title. This is from No More Robots. Published by No More Robots, developed by Spring Loaded Games. No More Robots. Mike Rose on Twitter. He is the developer behind Descenders. He is the head. I believe he's the head of No More Robots. He loves Game Pass. If you don't know that, he's one of the biggest supporters of Game Pass. So they're bringing a whole slate of games into Game Pass, and Let's Build a Zoo is one of those. If I remember my information correctly. Again, old brain doesn't always work, but I think I've got that correct. This was released on PC already back in November 2021. Now coming out for everything else September 29th. But Game Pass, it's going to be a fun time. I like zoo builders. I like theme park builders. I'm definitely going to be checking it out just to try it. Moonbreaker, PC, coming to PC on the 29th. Have no information, but it is published by Krafton, who is a big publisher of strategy games. This is a strategy game developed by Unknown Worlds Entertainment. So looking for a new strategy game? Moonbreaker might be it. Check it out. September 29th
it's based
on
off
PC.
It's the miniatures, using the miniatures and everything.
Miniatures? Awesome. Then another game, Pathfinder. Wrath of the Righteous. For anybody who does not know, Pathfinder was a big success based upon D&D rules, okay? Pathfinder is I have yet to play it because of the reviews. Now, some people absolutely love. Mav started it. Mav picked it up and started it. It's always on sale. The first Pathfinder is always on sale. This is the new one, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Some people say it's still broken on Xbox, even on the series consoles. There are game-breaking bugs. There are saves getting corrupted. That's why I have never jumped into this game. But it's right up my alley. This is your basic top-down strategy D&D style game, and it looks fantastic. Supposedly the story is awesome and amazing. Supposedly all the rules are implemented from D&D 5e very, very well, and that's why people love it. But I stayed away because of those game-breaking bugs with the saves. I hate games that do not respect my time. If I lose time, I'm putting you down. So I have never picked it up. Mav started it, absolutely was loving it. But this is the new one, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. So if they get this one right, and this doesn't have those same bugs, because they never went back and fixed a lot of them, but if this one comes out clean, this could be a brand new type of that strategy, top-down D&D style game that a lot of people love, including myself. So that's coming out from Owlcat Games, published by Owlcat Games. It's been out since September 2021 on PC. It's finally coming to consoles, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch. Interesting enough, PlayStation 5 is not listed, so it's getting that series upgrade, which we all love to hear about. So check out Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Then we've got Picross S8 coming to Switch on September 29th as well. This is a puzzle game. A lot of people like Picross, published by Nintendo directly, developed by Jupiter Corporation. So this is one of those little Nintendo games that a lot of people do love. So check out Picross S8 coming September the 29th. Then we've got, one of those Square Enix titles that is going to skip Xbox just randomly. No reason, no rhyme or reason, but Valkyrie Elysium is coming out to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4. People have been hyped for this one. Now, I've heard some people who've gotten some preview copies. There's some mixed conversation about it out there, whether or not it is good. It looks fantastic to me. Love the character design. Love the whole just feel of what they're going for in Valkyrie Elysium. Yeah, I love and that again, you don't have to play all the Valkyrie title kind of has branched off. It goes in all different directions, right? So this is the newest entry though. So September 29th, be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, we've got FIFA 23 coming out. It's going to sell big again, of course, as all FIFAs do. The last FIFA from EA, because they are no longer going to carry the FIFA licensing. So FIFA 23 coming out September 23rd. It's going to be big. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC. Everybody's getting except for Switch. So check out FIFA 23. I know a lot of you will do that. That is a yearly thing for just like Madden, just like NBA 2K. It's yearly. It's one of those things. And then I'm sure one that Rand L. Thor back in the day would have been licking his chops over for trophies or achievements, although it's just coming to PlayStation. My Little Pony, a Maritime and Bay Adventure coming out to PlayStation 5 on September 30th. Some people would say it's very appropriate that Sony is getting a My Little Pony game, for sure. So go check that out. And then we got Witchy Life Story coming to PC on September the 30th. Sundew Studios. I have no idea what this is. Looks like a cooking simulator. Some type of, I'm assuming you're going to be a witch mixing up formulas. But that's it, Steel. That's this week.
That's it?
Upcoming games.
That's all they got? No, there was a boatload. You know what I mean? Yeah. Again, people have these conversations that say, oh, there's no games to play. And look, and some of those might not be for you. But Valkyrie Elysium, that's also coming to PC. That is a game that I'm going to end up touching. So there are those games that are out there. And just depending on what camp that you're in, I mean, hey, there's something out there for everybody. Enjoy what you're playing. And like my guy Pong Steel says, play what you love what you play. Right? But with that, I want to start off with something that a little heartfelt topic, right? Because I had this conversation in the background with a family member. Paul may know what I'm referring to, but I wanted to bring it to you guys as the audience because I do feel like this is an important conversation to have because maybe you're experiencing the same thing with some of your relatives. Because unfortunately in gaming, because how gaming began, it is still looked at as childish. Unfortunately, I guess, depending on whether you welcome the child within, or maybe you just enjoy the hobby, the passion, just like anybody else enjoys doing anything that they do outside of their normal life, right? And I say normal life, and what's the real definition of normal life, right? That could be a whole nother podcast, a whole different thing, and this would be this would end up becoming the life of Living Splitscreen or something to that nature. But the conversation essentially was about why do you game? Or why do you game as often? Or why do you game because it comes across like a waste of time. You're not doing anything. You're not being productive. You're spending money on it, and it's not doing anything for you. And it wasn't me that directly this conversation was happening. So it was kind of like me on the outside of a building, looking through a window, watching and hearing some of the conversation, being able to hear the conversation that was taking place and just yelling from the outside of a window, like, what are you talking about? The reason I bring this up is because, again, there may be some people out there that may be dealing with some of these things, and I want to give you guys maybe some points of reference for your argument or for points in an argument, I should say, more so than anything. I'm trying to find my words this morning, so excuse me. Because a lot of the time, because the person that was actually involved in this conversation didn't know exactly what to say. I had to kind of coax them a little bit and say, hey, throw this out there. And it's kind of hard to listen to somebody and have a conversation with somebody else. So I can understand why they could have been a little bit off-putting. But at the end of the day, they didn't know what to say. To me, gaming isn't any different from any other hobby or passion or anything else that you like to do on an everyday basis. Whether you like driving cars, whether you like riding motorcycles like I do, whether you like building Legos, if you like painting, if you like sightseeing, if you like to travel all the time, if you watch TV, if you go fishing, all these things do one thing: take time. Gaming is no different in that matter. Actually, What makes gaming a little bit different from me versus other hobbies is that gaming is a personal investment. Because not only are you involving your time, but you're also involving your thought processes, your hand-eye coordination, your enveloping yourself within this world, right? Trying to figure things out, puzzle, whatever, customizing characters, whatever. And some people could say, well, you're only doing that because it's an escape. You use it as an escape. Why are you escaping all the time? Maybe that's something you need to look at. Okay, if this is an escape for me, that's fine. Some people need an escape. Some people use drugs as an escape too. Some people use alcohol as an escape too. Some people like to do other frivolous things as an escape. Why does gaming have to be the villain in that story, though? Above all other things, gaming is the villain. And that was kind of my problem, because nobody who watches TV or has any other hobby, again, I'm not going to go through them again, whatever your hobby is, whatever you like to do, nobody can tell you that you're doing something wrong, because you can tell them, what do you do in your free time? Oh, well, I do this, that, and the other. Okay, well, I play the game. Oh, well, that's a waste of time. Oh, is it though? Do you spend money? Do you spend money in your hobby? Yeah, I do. Oh, do you spend time in your hobby? Yeah. Do you make stuff in your hobby? Oh, well, that's where it's different, because I'm actually creating. Well, I'm actually experiencing art. Oh, well, gaming's not art. And that's the point that also got me. Okay, how's gaming not art? I don't understand that. I don't understand that concept. So people drawing something on a piece of paper is art, but when they graphically bring it to life in front of you, it's no longer art anymore. It doesn't get that appreciation. Now, this could be going to a whole different crowd of people. Maybe you aren't dealing with this. But again, I want to have this conversation because, again, it's another example of we've come so far, but we still have so far to go as far as the gaming industry goes. Because gaming is the biggest industry as far as entertainment goes, but we do not still have enough representation, because that's the problem. There's not enough representation to show that it's not that corny BS that everybody else thinks that it is. Or it's not this childish thing that these other people think that it is, or this waste of time or whatever. It's not serious. Although business people know that it's serious. You got directors in movies taking from games now. Pong, I mean, I've been talking for a minute here, so I want to pass it off to you, kind of bounce it back and forth. Just because I felt like this would be a little something that's juicy. I know it's off the cuff, and maybe not a lot of people are talking about this. Maybe it's just me. But do you agree with me, or what is your take as far as, isn't gaming just as much of a hobby, a passion, a side thing that anybody else would consider in place of anything? Like, do you get what I mean by that? Like, if you play basketball in your spare time, what's wrong with me playing games in my spare time? Like, why is there a difference there? Oh, because I'm being athletic, or like, what is that?
Yeah, listen, I mean, how could I not agree with you? I'm here right now on a Saturday morning, spending 3+ hours with a good friend of mine talking about games, right? So along with the chat, right? All these people joining us as well. Listen, Steele, you and I have had conversations in the background about things outside of gaming, right? And you and I have had conversations that go deeper than just, hey, what are we going to get down to play? So I have a wide range of views on different subjects when it comes to this stuff. Now listen, just like any other hobby, could you be doing something else with your life? Whether you're Netflix and chill, and you're reading a book, or you're reading a fiction book, let's say that, not a actual informative book, but a fiction book. Entertainment, no matter what form it takes, whether you're into fantasy football and you watch football for 8 hours
Bro.
on a Sunday, right? Listen,
Oh,
every
God.
hobby, you can look at every hobby and say, could I be doing something different? Could I be doing something to improve myself? Could I be doing something? Could I be learning a language? Could I be, learning a side gig? Could I be working on a side business? Absolutely. Of course. I've gone back and forth with this in my life. I've spent, again, a lifetime playing video games. There's never been a moment that I haven't been without video games. Do I look back and go, damn, if I was in my 20s, had I taken all those hours of video games out and done something else, could I be somewhere different? Sure. But everybody can do that. Again, it doesn't matter what hobby it is. I think video games are an easy target. I think video games, because they started as a kids' entertainment, completely 100% advertised towards kids, that stereotype, even though we've moved away from that, even though all those kids that in my group that started out in video games before they were cool, before they were mainstream, and we've moved through this whole entire time frame to the point now where 2 billion, 3 billion people of all age groups, up to grandmas and grandpas, are now playing games. It still carries that stigma. It still carries that over, that somehow video games are different from other forms of entertainment. And I would argue that compared to a large portion of other entertainment forms, Steel, to your point, they are much better for you. And now studies are showing that, again, if you want to get down to the brass tacks and you want to get down to the science, video games are much healthier for you than many forms of entertainment, because they do engage your brain, because they make you think, depending on what type of game you're playing. They activate strategy. They activate brain power that you use during like math and during learning languages and science. You are activating the same parts of those brains while playing certain video games, because you have to think about what you're doing. It's not just Netflix and chill where you're just kicking back, zoned out, just taking in what the creator's giving you. You are actually interacting. So again, I think that anybody that comes with this argument, first of all, is probably uninformed about how video games have evolved. I doubt that they've looked into what actual video games are nowadays. And I think it's a very easy argument to win, like you said, Steele, because if you ask anybody, do you have a hobby? Most people are going to say, yeah, I do. Okay, what do you do? Okay, the easiest question is, how do you think that's different from me playing video games? Because I can tell you how video games are actually better than your hobby as an entertainment form. And I can actually explain to you what the interaction with the actual creation actually means to me, and how it actually does make me engage my brain versus your hobby. All of that stuff can be said. Again, I understand that some people could say it's a waste of time. I understand completely. If you're one of those people who maybe your hobby is gym, which is another one of my hobbies as well, yeah, you could say, hey, you're building yourself up physically, you're setting yourself up for potentially living longer, all that good stuff, right? I can hear those arguments compared to sitting on a couch with a controller in hand. But I will tell you that my brain is being worked. My brain is getting activity. I'm still actually increasing and keeping my comprehension skills into my older age as well by playing video games. So there's always a counter argument in most cases. Now, if somebody comes and says, well, you should have started a small business, you could be making extra money. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you that. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to say I could have bettered my life by doing something else. Sure, I could have. But again, who am I to judge anybody else's life? Who are you to judge my life and how I want to live my one time on this planet, according to some people? How are you to judge me on that? I'm not going to judge you for what you've done. So why would you judge me for that? I think it's very important that we all, if it makes you happy, if it gives you great memories,
Right.
If it is something that you can, at the end of the day, honestly sit back and say, I'm actually glad I spent my time doing that, then for you and your life, I don't think that anybody can say anything about it. I think that that's your own experience. You're living your own experience. You got to do what you got to do to make yourself happy. And like I said, compared to many forms of entertainment, drinking, sports, again, I was a huge sports guy, huge into fantasy football, huge into fantasy basketball back in the day. I know how many hours people put in. It's no different. It's no different. And I would say it's actually better at the end of the day for you. So interesting conversation, Steele. It's a big one because it is multifaceted, because you can go down many branching paths with it as far as where you want to take that conversation. But I think that overall, what you're trying to say here is, why is that still video games comes up, and it's still for a lot of people that line where they're like, hey, everything else is cool. Drinking, going out and partying for, hours on end, sleeping in, waking up with a hangover, that's still acceptable to most people. But when it comes to video games, oh, why? What? Why are you wasting your time? Well, okay. Well, again, I think it's just an easy target, that the stigma of it being starting out as a kid's form of entertainment, even though it's growing into something way beyond what people thought it ever could be, still carries that. It still carries that to this day, 40 years later, 50 years later.
Yeah, Doom Reaper, he brings up a good point. He says, to the one streamer that said none of your top 100 moments in life took place in a game, maybe, but many took place playing games with friends.
Correct. The social aspect of gaming now has changed things too. It's a great point, Doom Reaper. Social aspect has changed. It's no longer just the loner hobby. It's just no longer the kid in the basement all by himself. Sure, some people are still like that. Sure, there's plenty of games you can do that. But for most of us at this point, it does have social interactivity. It is creating friendships that I never would have had. Case in point, me and Steele right here, right? The whole Fun Speculation family. Yeah. I never would have met anybody. And like I said, the pandemic was horrible on so many different levels for me personally. But at the end of the day, when I'm at my final moments, will I remember Steele? Will I remember the Fun Speculation family? Will I remember people from chat? Will those people be a part of my memories? Absolutely. Of course they will. They become much more than just gaming buddies. We are friends on a different level. And I would never have met these people if it wasn't for gaming. So can you say that that's worthless? Absolutely freaking not. Absolutely not. So yeah, now that argument on Twitter too, I saw that too, Doom Reaper, that guy that came in. Again, I understand where some people come from. Highly driven, highly motivated, business-minded people who say you could have done so much more. I don't disagree, but that's not your choice to make. This is my life. I choose how I want to live it, and you don't have a right to judge it, because I could probably go in your past and find plenty of moments where I could say, why'd you do that? Why were we wasting time there? You could have been even more. I don't care if you got $1 million in the bank. You could have had $3 million in the bank had you not wasted your time, right? So there's always that counter argument. And I just, again, who is anybody to judge how people spend their free time, how they are happy, or how they enjoy life when they have those moments? Nobody has a right to do that. So again, I'm not for the judgmental types.
Yeah. And that's just kind of my perspective on it. I don't get it. But maybe it's not for me to get it. Just like anybody else is not going to get it. It's one of those things to where, like any other subject that you come up with too, where you can either come to an understanding or agree to disagree and just move on. I don't have to understand you, and that's okay. You don't have to like what I'm doing. I don't have to like what you're doing. But you also, if we're going to have an intellectual conversation, and I guess that's my bigger thing, is if we're going to have an intellectual conversation and we're going to be adults about this situation and we're going to talk to each other like humans, then why can't we at least understand and compare? Like, if you want to make that comparison, then the first thing I'm always going to do is, do you watch TV? Do you spend time on your phone? Then don't say nothing to me.
Right.
Period.
Right.
I spend that time doing this, and I feel productive. You could feel however you want to. Yeah. I mean, hey, it is what it is. Again, I just felt like it was an interesting point to bring up. Again, maybe nothing involved with news or anything, but I do feel it's an important topic to maybe to the community and to me. Also, just a good subject.
Nick said someone got the Modern Warfare 2 working on a Steam Deck. That completely changes my perspective on that device.
Oh yeah, Nick, you thought that was going to happen? Modern Warfare 2 is available on Steam. The Steam device.
Still kind of crazy though. The Steam Deck can run it.
Hey, look, bro, I'm telling you guys, like, I understand portable devices might not be for everybody, and we can kind of we'll make that a smooth transition into the whole G Cloud situation that's currently going on. I think that'll be pretty smooth. And the possibility of Xbox wanting to do something similar or possibly doing something similar. But yeah, man, getting Modern Warfare 2 to get to working on the device like that, that is super dope. But I mean, to me, it makes sense. The only thing about that is that just gives me so much Game Gear vibes. Where if you're not next to a charger or somewhere to plug it in or some power source, it's not going to be worth the point. It's not going to be worth your time. Right. But again, if you're not portable gaming too, that's the other thing to consider. It may not be something that's for you. Right. Because running games like that's going to cause some, you know what I mean? It'll cause some issues. Nick also says apparently the person ran some Windows hack to get it to work. I can see that. Again, with devices like that, there's so many different ways to get around getting something done. And that's the possibility with these like cloud devices and everything that are coming into the fold, because yeah, they may be marketed as cloud devices, but I can also be honest and say, I don't think that that's the end of the story though. Because like the Google device, very similarly, it can still play games from the App Store. And now you can say, oh, who's playing those games? Again, there is mobile gamers for a reason. Let me get everything that go. Because Logitech went ahead and revealed its G Cloud handheld for Xbox streaming. And this is going to be a little bit of everything that we know about it so far. Of course, and this is going to be coming from Windows Central. Shout out to Jez Corden who brought this out there. And this is a device that can run the Xbox Cloud app natively too. So that's something to consider. G Cloud versus Steam Deck. Steam Deck's a completely different device, dip down, to be real with you. The Steam Deck has more capability, has more possibilities. It's also a much more expensive device. For us, like entry level goes, I'd probably still go Steam Deck right now over the G Cloud. But that's also going to be a point of conversation because price does matter. And with this being something from Logitech, and Logitech being known as a hardware manufacturer, it makes it difficult. At least I can see them being kind of between a rock and a hard place, because they have to make it appealing to the consumer. And this is obviously not for everybody. Right. This is obviously for a certain audience that they've seen and that they're testing, that they had some product ready to go for. Right. They did a little bit of testing on it. I'm not going to say a little bit of testing. I feel like that's undermining it. They've done some testing on it. Feel like this is going to be a solid device for what it's capable of. People are mobile gamers. It would be dope to see. I know some people have the conversation where, oh, what would be the point of having a device like this when you can just whip out your phone? Well, what if I don't want to use my phone that way? People do use their phone for business. I know that was one of his biggest contention points. It's like, dude, I use my phone. That was part of the reason I stopped trying to ever mobile game, because I played one mobile game one time. I can't remember what it was. And then it was just like, I get text messages in and you got to reply to people. Then you got to load, and then the game goes away and you got to load it back up. And it's just like, bro, I'm spending more time loading. The data isn't the greatest. It's not like I'm playing on my own internet. Like, what are we doing here? So having a dedicated device to do these things. And look, the one advantage this does have over the Steam Deck, it has offset sticks. Like, guys, it already has an advantage. It's a competitor already, just for me. Like, I would consider this because of that. And I also think that I haven't looked at some more of the internals of the device, but this would be something that I would possibly consider. It's a Switch-like device for grown-ups or possibly your kids, depending on what kind of games they play, right? I think this would work with my youngest for sure, easily. She can play whatever the Google Play games she wanted to play, moving around, but she also has a tablet. So I guess it just depends on what you're into. If you're in the market for something like this, if you were on the go, if I was constantly on the move with work and everything, I would definitely have a device similar to this. But again, it kind of opens that question. Oh, maybe I would just have a Steam Deck, which I probably would. But again, this is going to be coming from Windows Central. So Logitech has teamed up with Microsoft and NVIDIA to offer a handheld based entirely on Xbox.
And Tencent, by the way.
And Tencent. Tencent is in that pie too. And entirely on Xbox and NVIDIA GeForce Now cloud gaming service. The Logitech G Cloud gaming handheld is an Android-based all-in-one gaming handheld with a Wi-Fi and Bluetooth support, set to launch in October of 2022. Now, again, the key component here is going to be it's Android-based. Android has come very far. Android, again, this is also why this is going to end up becoming more of a tinkerer's device also, but there's a lot of capability with Android. And depending on what they're actually putting in this device, again, I got to break down the specs and everything else. I know they break it down a little bit more down here, but even that, I need more information than that. But the handheld comes with Xbox Cloud Gaming and NVIDIA GeForce Now bundled as a standard with support for Google Play services with access to services like Stadia, Amazon Luna, and Steam Link, among other gaming apps. Again, it's doing a lot of things that a gamer like myself would be interested in. I get access to all these different NVIDIA GeForce Now has been doing really well with getting modern games up and running and like newer releases up and running and you being able to play them through the cloud. So that is definitely something that is doable. It starts at $349 USD, which is extremely steep for me. When I can get a Series S and attach a screen to it for $50 more, I don't know if I would do this. You know what I mean? And that's the conversation that we start having, where it just depends. This is definitely it's not for everybody. Again, when things first come out, when these ideas first start rolling and these devices, again, it has to find a market, it has to find an audience, and as it does, those prices will kind of fluctuate. But and it is set to launch in US and Canada next month with other regions to follow later. And that other regions to follow later, they could never launch in those other regions depending on how they launch in those two markets right there. One of the biggest criticisms of Xbox Cloud Gaming has been peripherals. Touch controls are okay for some games, which they are constantly working on, and mobile controllers like the Razer Kishi and GameSir X2 family are decent in some circumstances. However, gaming on your phone has a number of drawbacks. From notifications, interrupting your gameplay, taking up your battery, or even touch controls obscuring UI elements. Jez has called on Microsoft to make its own handheld, and this might just be the next best thing. Say hello to the Logitech G Cloud. Again, it's oriented around cloud streaming. The hardware is optimized specifically and designed to improve video streams for Xbox Cloud Gaming and Game Pass, GeForce and Steam Link. It doesn't support 4G or 5G, so primarily Wi-Fi. It does have a Snapdragon 720. Again, a lot of people aren't going to know what that is. It's decent, but it's comparable to a phone. And 4 gigabytes of RAM.
So, an older phone.
Yeah, no, the older phone for sure.
Jasper looked it up because he said my Note 8 was still more powerful, and that was 5 years old. So
yeah, so again, that's why having this conversation is extremely. It's interesting. Because it is easy to look at this and be like, man, this is pointless. I don't understand this. Like, it's way overpriced. There's no market for this. I might as well just buy another whatever phone. I might just pull my phone out the drawer and use that for streaming. And you may very well have a point. You could. But if you're interested in tech, you want to try some of the new hotness, hey, here's a device. The one thing that's important to me about this is that this isn't like these types of devices aren't new. That's what's crazy to me. They're just starting to be marketed more, which is what I want to bring to light, right? You're starting to see more of it being pushed out because there's always been portable, quote unquote, PCs. right? That have done something similar to this where you can set it up, get it running on Windows. You can probably get the Xbox app running on there, no problem. You're good to go. That are so much more powerful than this device. But again, it's trying to play that fine line of market value and worth. And really debating and what really depending on infrastructure, which I don't think right now we necessarily have, which is why the price is just way too out of range for me personally. I'm not going to pre-order this one. I would personally tell people that, hey, I don't think you should invest in this. I would recommend you just save your ducats and get a Steam Deck if that's something that you would rather. If you're looking this direction, just go to get the Steam Deck. It's getting more support. A lot of people are on it right now. Plenty of YouTube videos to walk you through things. There's so much access there versus getting a device like this. Personally, how do you feel about this, Pong? Do you think I'm giving out good advice here? Or do you think that Logitech just might be a little bit early? Or is it they're testing the waters possibly?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is testing the waters for Microsoft, for Logitech, for Tencent. I think this is a testing point. This is going to be for your non-techie enthusiast, Steel. This is going to be for your person like Mav, who owns a Steam Deck, right? But he's not the techie side of the guy. So he doesn't want to go through all the trouble of setting up his Steam Deck to be able to do the same functions that this device is going to be able to provide. Meaning one of them being a console streaming, right? Because he does play in bed. He's been playing NBA 2K23 nonstop in bed. And like he said, it's a convenience factor for him. Although at this price point, again, what is the audience, right? What is the audience? It's going to be a small audience, hence why they're only launching it in America and Canada right now.
$200 that'll sit right here. Right, I got you.
Right. $199 is probably the magic price point for this type of device. But there's still going to be people who do buy it. There's plenty of people in our chat right now who are interested in it for sure.
Right.
So I think it is going to do something, but and Jasper brought up too, once, a lot of this device is probably going to be made in China. Once that happens, we're probably going to have a bunch of knockoffs that are going to be cheaper at some point as well. That always happens. So there's going to be different options, but I think that these things, I never fault companies for trying. Again, I'm not a techie guy at all, but I always like the latest and greatest. My bank doesn't allow me to do that anymore the way they used to, where I would pick up devices just to try them out and try to see what they were about. I think this would be cool to have sitting around the house from a convenience standpoint, from an ease of use standpoint to pick up, know that I'm getting the Android. Most people are pretty comfortable with using Android at this point. Right. So it's very easy pick up and play type of device that you don't have to put a whole lot of thought into. You don't have to monkey around with. So again, I think it has a place. For Xbox, listen, Xbox is moving forward. They talk about it. They talked about it in their Xbox Wire price release. We talked about this on PM and the PM with Jez as well on Thursday night. Xbox is they're going to put their ecosystem wherever they can. They don't care if the device may not have a big user base. They don't care. The chances are if somebody picks up this device, hops into the ecosystem, and maybe some people will be their first experience. Maybe they pick it up for the other features, but then all of a sudden they see Game Pass or xCloud on there and they're like, hey, let's go try out this Xbox thing. I've been hearing about it. They hop in the ecosystem. They realize how big, how many games are actually there. And all of a sudden, even if that device doesn't become the hot point, down the road, that same person may get a Samsung new TV with an app on it, pick up a controller, and say, hey, I'm in. And I'm in. Now you got somebody who's invested in the ecosystem for life. And I think that Xbox is going to judge these devices and see down the road, because as Jez said, he knows for a fact that they've done initial R&D work on their own handheld device. He doesn't know how far it's gone. He doesn't know if it's gone to prototyping or anything close to that, but they have thought about it. We know they're working on a streaming stick of their own, right? Steel, or a streaming box of their own, some type of Roku device that is going to allow you to connect older TVs and access Game Pass and xCloud So they're moving forward with this initiative, and handhelds are obviously the next step. They said that directly in their Xbox Wire, because when you're talking about the East, when you're talking about the 2 billion, 3 billion people on mobile, you're talking about trying to get in wherever you can so that people have another access point. So I think for Xbox, this is huge. I think this could eventually lead to an Xbox device down the road. I think that there is a chance by the end of this generation we see one. It's not going to be native hardware, as Jez was explaining. To get the Series S down into a form factor, even the size of a Steam Deck, that it has any type of battery life whatsoever and has cooling, that's going to not cost efficient right now. There's no way they're going to be able to get that down cheap. So they would go with a wireless only or a Wi-Fi only device, a streaming only device. Right. But like Jez was saying, their advantage, Microsoft and Xbox being probably one of the only companies that could do this at a lower cost, because they could strip out Android. They could put in their own version of the Xbox type OS into a device. That device would be subsidized, which Logitech can't subsidize. They got to pay for all this, right? Logitech has to make money on the hardware. That's where they're making their money. They're not making their money off of anything else. Whereas Xbox, Microsoft would be able to make a device and subsidize the cost, because people will be entering their ecosystem, because Pong, they're getting subscriptions and selling games.
You want Xbox to lose even more money?
No. They're going to subsidize, because eventually you're going to be able to buy the games through xCloud. We already know that's one of their initiatives. You're going to be able to buy games direct from xCloud and play them. So that is the future. So I think that this definitely could lead down the road. I'm not going to... my only issue with this device... I think Six Slayer said it as well, and I think a lot of people said, my only issue with this, I don't have any other criticism other than the price point. That's it. The price point is the sticking point. That's the only thing. Otherwise, I think this device has a purpose. I think it has a reason to exist. I don't think it's not without merits. So I do believe that Logitech is kind of breaking ground here. Like you said, there's been other devices.
Yes.
But Logitech is a quality company who puts out quality products, right? They're known, and they're going to push this thing a little bit further. Again, only starting in America and Canada. We'll see where it goes from there. We'll see if they move on. But I think that this does have a reason to be here. And I think that there is going to be an audience, even if that audience is small. I think there's still going to be an audience, and who knows from here, maybe it breaks enough ground. Maybe we see some other devices come out that are a little bit cheaper, and all of a sudden, that kind of becomes the standard for a lot of people. Now that Wi-Fi is getting to a point, the tech is catching up, the internet is catching up, not everywhere, but for a lot of people, it's catching up well enough that this will be that travel device for them, that this will be that, hey, we saw Phil talk about it. Phil's got it over at TGS. We saw Kojima playing with it. Everybody was freaking out. Oh my God, is this the new Xbox handheld? Kojima's holding something while he's talking to Phil. Well, we find out that Phil had brought his Logitech G Cloud to TGS, and he said on the hotel Wi-Fi over there, it worked extremely well. So I think that as technology catches up, as the internet gets better everywhere, I think these devices will become more and more popular, and it'll become like a norm for everybody to use. Because some people just don't like to use their phone for that device. So just another access point. I think it exists. I'm glad it does, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, it has me excited to see what the possibilities are. So let's see what's happening with that. I think from there, I mean, where you want to take it, Pong? Want to throw a little smoke in there, or you want to talk about insiders being exposed?
You want to talk about competition? If this is about competition, let us have competition, Steel.
I mean, who would say something so determined? He's so confident.
With a smirk, Steel, no less. With a smirk. No less, from the big man himself.
Hey, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, man, look, I know a lot of people are like, oh, now people are excited about CEOs and all these top guys at gaming companies. I want to tell you guys right here, right now. Yeah, we're excited because Microsoft has come out to play. Again, a little bit of background. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella came out and let the people know that, hey, if there needs to be competition, then let's have competition. I was hearing some people have this conversation throughout the week, last night too, where, because, you know, Pong knows I like to frequent the dark alleys sometimes and just walk by in a dark trench coat with my hat tilted down. And
I may have been lurking somewhere there too still this week, actually. So
okay. You freak. I get a drink. They have good drinks there sometimes. So I have a scotch on the rocks, and I just keep
the beer's a little flat, brother.
The beer's that's why I have a
it's
scotch.
Like a shady strip club. It's like a shady strip club sometimes.
It is. Sometimes they got a good one in there. Sometimes, a lot of time they don't. But a lot of people were bringing up the point that, well, the deals that Microsoft has been doing over the last since 2017 have been not the same as far as how gaming has traditionally gone. Now, one, I'm going to disagree with you there. Gaming has always been competitive. There's always been competition. There's always been somebody trying to push the other person out. You know, there was always back and forth going on. And that's what made the industry exciting, right? That was a whole point why there's a console war in the first place. Why there's even multiple sides onto anything. PlayStation had been there. You grew up with it. The same thing happened with Nintendo. People grew up with that. I'll speak more on my era. PlayStation was there. You grew up with it, and then you grew up. You had, of course, you had Dreamcast, GameCube, and all that. Those systems were great, but the next big thing that you knew of was Microsoft, and then Microsoft drops an Xbox, and then Xbox now makes a little bit of a name for itself, and Halo becomes this thing. So, but Microsoft never took gaming necessarily seriously. And again, if you haven't watched the Power On documentary, I'll be honest and say it has swayed a lot of my opinion on how I look at the industry, because it gives you a peek behind the curtain, because nobody else looks. I'm not working in the game industry, and even if I was, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be in the meetings with Bill Gates and talking about the potential of the new Xbox console, or whatever this console is supposed to be able to do. Like, I'm not, that's no. But Microsoft has been doing things the traditional way since they've entered the market. It is funny to me that Sony has allowed Microsoft to enter the market and be competitive with them. Whether some people consider that competition, oh, look at these games that they've put out over this amount of time. Oh, you want to compare that to Sony? Look, man, to each its own. I can tell you that I've spent more time in the Xbox ecosystem over the last 20 years than I have in the PlayStation ecosystem in the 30 years that I've been alive. I can be honest and say that too. But I can also be use the intelligence out of my brain and say, look, man, Sony's a bigger brand power than Xbox is. Obviously, PlayStation can stumble a little bit like you've seen with the PlayStation 3 generation, but they can pick it right back up like they did with the PlayStation 4. Pricing matters, games matter. When you don't have anybody to make games for you, that matters also. Because again, people are like going with this thing, separating Xbox from Microsoft, and it's like you don't separate PlayStation from Sony, so that doesn't make any sense. And they're like just trying to do a lot of backpedaling and sidestepping and juke maneuvers. There's a lot of Madden being played out here. And I'm here to come through with the hit stick and tell you guys, look, man, Xbox made these moves and it spent this type of money in the gaming industry. And you can consider it, oh, well, they're buying their way to victory. Okay, but I don't see how that's possible when they're doing these things because they couldn't compete. A decade. Again, coming off the 360 generation, that went well, right? But still not good enough in comparison to at least what Sony was able to do. Sony still came off in the back end. But then the Xbox One generation completely destroyed like Xbox's mentality, I feel like, in a lot of people's mindset. just as far as the games coming out, and they're not getting a lot of not a lot of support from the East. And there just seemed like there wasn't a lot going on outside of your Halo, Gears of War. So when you're in an industry that the main part of your business isn't necessarily saying, fully behind, and then now turn around and has spent more money than anybody else has within the industry, at what point do you at what point do you tell yourself what is equal equivalence? And can there ever be equal equivalence? Does equal equivalence matter in business? I don't think so. I don't think that's how businesses are run, at least in my knowledge. Again, I'm not running $1 trillion business, but I'm pretty sure that's why Satya has a smile on his face. Because he knows, just as well as we know, that sometimes you got to pay to play, especially when your competitor has been in the market and is a well-known brand. Again, number 7 in brand recognition, when Microsoft isn't even in the top 10, you think Satya doesn't look at those types of things? You think Satya doesn't look over at Apple and say, okay, how can we solidify ourselves even more? So Sony is that's small fry. We are trying to evolve the gaming industry. That's their focus. It's the industry's perspective. And I think that's what Satya is more so looking at, and why you're seeing those smiles come off of his face, because it is more so about the industry. It is about Azure. It is about the server blades. It is about cloud. There's more to gaming than just you getting your single player games on your exclusive box. Who cares about that? If I can have 3 billion people in my ecosystem, or in your ecosystem, or in our ecosystem, which is part of the play, because I also know, as somebody who is part of a business who has been known to, because of old 90s mentalities and court hearings and everything else, and the way people talk about Microsoft now, but is known to have a monopoly tendencies, because of how big the company is. That's the only reason why, honestly. You could keep going back to Windows, but that's old news, and the internet and that's old news at that point. At this point, the game has completely changed, and that's what that smile is about. We're having a conversation about Call of Duty still. You're not talking about StarCraft. You're not talking about the potential of World of Warcraft. You're not talking about any of these other games that could potentially come. You're just worried about Call of Duty. And if that's your only thing that you're worried about, wow, wait until I pull away this veil. Now, I'm going to get into a little bit of this article here. This is from Bloomberg. This is by Emily Chang and Dina Bass. Microsoft CEO is confident about Activision deal approval, handling of economy. So, Microsoft Corp Chief Executive Officer Satya Nadella said he's confident the company can gain regulatory approval for its $69 billion purchase of Activision Blizzard, even in the face of an in-depth regulatory probe in the UK. Of course, any acquisition of this size will go through scrutiny. We feel very, very confident that will come out, he said in an interview with Bloomberg Television. And again, this is coming from Bloomberg. This is when this type of news hits these types of sites, there's more eyes on this than just us. I know people like, oh, it's just in your circle, it's just Twitter. No, Bloomberg's a pretty big site, ladies and gentlemen. So you got to understand that there's more things working behind the scenes. But Nadella's prediction puts him at odds with investor skepticism about the deal. While Activision rose Thursday, outperforming a slump in tech stocks Wednesday, close to $75.32, it left the company more than 20% below the offer price, a signal massive doubt that Microsoft will ever be able to consummate the transaction. Again,
that is false. That is completely false. That has been blown out of the water by experts. Again, this is a some of these I appreciate Bloomberg. Bloomberg does
but you know they got to spice it up.
They do have to spice it up. That is natural that is natural investor skepticism for a deal this size. That is normal for a deal this size that has to go through regulatory bodies to get approved. This is the biggest transaction in Microsoft's history. There is going to be natural investor selection here when it comes to that. But again, that does not mean there's some abnormal amount of we don't think this. If the investors truly thought this deal was not going to go through, the stocks would still be sitting at $60 in some sense that Activision was at when Microsoft made this when they made the offer. That's where it would be sitting at if people truly believed that this was not going to go through.
Exactly. Microsoft is either the number 4 or number 5 competitor in the video game industry, depending on how you count, Nadala said. And their number 1 player, Sony Group Corp, has made several recent acquisitions. So if this is about competition, let us have competition, he said. And he said that with a smirk on his face. Now, this is also one of the statements that a lot of people were breaking down even further and saying, hey, the number 1 player, Sony Group, has made several recent acquisitions. And this is what people were saying, well, some were comparing to as being a false equivalence, because the type of deal Sony has been making cannot compare to Microsoft spending almost $90 billion within the last year, almost 2 years. And on one hand, I can see what you're going for, but I don't understand what you're trying to say, because it's still a business move to help power their ecosystem that they understand and have admitted is weak. Microsoft has come out and said that, hey, we can't compete in this space. So we did Game Pass. That was our competition. We changed the game. Again, if you're using it as something to compare to, again, okay, well, let's compare the 10-year jump that Sony has had in the hardware business versus Microsoft. 10 to 20-year jump Sony has had in the hardware business versus Microsoft. Are we going to use that as an equivalence also? Why is Sony having an issue competing with Microsoft on a hardware level? Why is Sony failing to compete on a power level as far as their console goes? Why is Sony using a console that is at least 2 years behind the hardware of the Xbox Series consoles as a hardware company that has been in the game at least 20 years longer than Microsoft had, hardware-wise? Are we going to compare that? No, we're not. Sony has made plenty of deals and have cut plenty and done plenty of things to make sure that they can be competitive in the market. That's why they did the things with Nintendo that they did back in the day. So they did the things with Sega that they did back in the day. That is why Sony is relevant the way that it is right now. Sony made sure you had a DVD player in the PlayStation 2, not just because they wanted to do something good for the consumer, because they knew you would buy it, because DVD players were a hot commodity. That's why it's the most sold console of all time, because it was pointless for you to buy one as DVD player by itself. Why would you do that? Buy a PlayStation, it plays games, and you can watch movies easily. It's the same price. They did something smart with that. Now we're moving into a different direction. So Pong, so if this is about competition, let us have competition. Are we what are we comparing? What is the competition here, Pong? Is Microsoft providing competition now, or is it not fair because Microsoft had to pay to play now?
Oh, this is business. This is business. You don't have arbitrary rules in business created by the fans, thank God, or created by journalists, thank God, who think that somehow, some way, changing the entire business model is unfair because the parent company, Microsoft, to Xbox, has a bigger bank than the parent company to PlayStation in Sony Corp. So all of a sudden, that's unfair. Let me tell you something. We can go down any industry. You can take down any business, and you don't get to cry foul. BlackBerry was the biggest cell phone company in the world. The biggest cell phone company in the world. People don't understand, if you weren't a part of that generation, just how big BlackBerry was.
BlackBerry was dope.
BlackBerry was the #1 used phone across the entire world because of their security model. Because BlackBerry's security was so much better than every other phone out there. If you were in business, if you were dealing with emails, you had a BlackBerry. Did BlackBerry start screaming foul when Apple came along and changed the entire game? No, they didn't change. They didn't cry foul. They actually dismissed it and said nobody is going to use that type of phone. Nobody's going to want apps. Nobody's going to want this stuff. We are the kings.
Yep.
Right? Guess where BlackBerry is right now today?
Non-existent.
Yeah. That's right. And when Samsung came along with Android, or Google came along with Android, and Samsung started gaining steam with their phones, did Apple cry foul because they were doing things different on Android because it was more open platform than the closed platform that Apple has? Did they cry foul and say, this is not fair, you guys can't have an open platform? No, they did not. It's competition. And now guess what? Apple and Samsung share the market, okay? For the most part. There's other players, of course, as well, but they share the market. But just because you come in and you change what has been done for decades as a business, and just because you have the bank to go ahead and make that change, does not somehow make it an unfair competition. This happens all the time. Sega was 1A or 1B to Nintendo at one point. Yep. Guess what? The game changed. They made their mistakes. They had to leave the console market. That's how it works. Thanks in no small part to Sony coming along with the PlayStation and changing how things were done as well. Listen, this is what happens in business. This is a joke. This narrative that all of a sudden, because the big bear woke up out of hibernation, because Sony and the PlayStation have been that big bad bear, that big grizzly who gets most of the fish out of that lake or that river. Now all of a sudden, Microsoft woke up out of hibernation, and they're just a much bigger grizzly bear, and they're coming for more fish. You don't get to all of a sudden say, well, because that PlayStation grizzly was my favorite, this is not fair. He's a lot bigger than us. That's not how this works, folks. It's survival of the fittest in business. You adapt or you die. That happens constantly in this industry. And I'm not saying PlayStation. I've never been the doom and gloom guy who say PlayStation is dead. I've never been that guy. I never will be that guy. They have too much popularity to just die off. They will continue to exist. But this stuff is nonsense when you start talking about what is going on here. Now, as far as Satya's comments go, of course, he is the CEO of Microsoft. He is not a gamer. I've heard people saying, well, Satya doesn't care about gaming. No, you're probably right. Satya doesn't care about gaming except for what effect it has on the Azure servers, what effect it has on Microsoft's bottom line. And obviously, he has deemed what Xbox is doing to be important enough to make it a pillar of Microsoft Corporation at this point compared to what it used to be, which was a nice, cute little side project that was started because Bill Gates was scared that Sony was about to take over the living room. So it started off as a little side project, kind of a roadblock to Sony to make sure that Sony didn't gain the foothold and take over the living room.
Yep.
That's how it was started. So was it serious? Sure. Bill Gates wrote checks. Bill Gates agreed to do all. Absolutely. But was it a pillar of Microsoft Corporation? No, it was not a pillar. Nobody from Xbox had a seat at the big boy table. Now, that's totally different. Now, Phil is the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. It's no longer just Xbox anymore. It is now Microsoft Gaming. They are now big players. Satya is doing what he does as a CEO. He is saying that the full weight of Microsoft is behind this, that we are confident because of that we're going to get this deal through. This deal is the biggest, largest purchase in Microsoft Corporation history. For a tech giant that is nearly $2 trillion, that is saying something. That is a statement unto itself. So Satya comes out and says, listen, this is a direct slap at the CMA. I've heard your words. This is what he's saying. I've heard your words, CMA. You guys are talking about competition. That's exactly what we're doing. We're number 4, number 5. You don't get to protect Sony's number 1 spot. That's not competition. What is competition is the number 4, number 5 company making deals like this to try to come up and take the number 1 spot. Because what does that do? That makes Sony go back to the drawing board. That makes Sony reevaluate their own business models and say, what are we going to do to retain this spot? And that's what competition is. Yep. You can look at it in sports. Dallas Cowboys had a hell of a run in the 90s. But because they had that hell of a run, nobody else was supposed to come take that championship from them? No, that's not how it works. Teams are trying to get better. Yep. By free agents, by drafting, by all the different things you do in sports to make your team better. You don't get to cry foul just because another team goes out and makes a big splash. You don't get to do that. That's competition. You got to make yourself better. That's innovation. And again, I understand Sony's battling for their throne. I understand that they've dominated this industry for decades now. But let's not also forget, this is not a popularity contest. The most popular at this moment in time does not get to say, hey, you can't become more popular than us. It's happened multiple times in this industry throughout the decades. PlayStation 2 was the best-selling console of all time. Guess what Sony did? They fumbled it. They screwed up with the PlayStation 3. That gave an opening to Xbox. Xbox 360 came in and dominated most of the generation until PlayStation got their act together because they had to, because they were losing market share left and right. They had to get their act together. They had to drop the price. They had to start promoting the PlayStation 3 as a Blu-ray player. So that just like the PlayStation 2 with the DVD player, all of a sudden the PlayStation 3, when they dropped the price, became one of the cheapest Blu-ray players on the market. So why would you not just buy a PlayStation 3 instead of one of those other Blu-ray players? They won a lot of the generation by doing that, but by also getting their act together in the games department and starting to make quality games, starting to make good choices with their games, and they eventually caught up at the end of the day. But Xbox still won that generation because where they came from the Xbox, their OG Xbox, to where they hit in the Xbox 360 was night and freaking day. They made their mark during that generation. But just because PlayStation 2 had been the most popular device didn't automatically mean that Sony gets to win the next generation. That's not how this works. It flip-flops. Guess what? Xbox had all the momentum coming in to Xbox One generation. What did they do? They tried to innovate too much. They tried to get cute. Donnie D tried to get cute with TV. He tried to get cute with the Kinect being boxed in there. All of a sudden, now they were overpriced for most people.
I mean, mentality right. Changed, but you can kind of understand that from a service-based company trying to evolve versus a hardware-based company.
Yes.
Going through massive success and then falling on their face to a competitor that is new to the space.
Correct. But, and what did Sony do in response, though? They took advantage. Yeah. They overnight, literally, they overnight changed their entire presentation for the PlayStation 4 from what they were going with. They were going to have DRM. They were going to have all the time online connectivity, just like Xbox. That is a fact. They overnight, they saw the reception of the Xbox One and flipped the switch and said, nope, we're not doing that. Came out, gave a presentation that everybody wanted to hear, came out with a cheaper box, and they went on to dominate last generation. This is competition. And again, because Microsoft this time around, because of the position Xbox was in when Phil Spencer took over, and because of the changes that had to be made, they had to go back to the drawing board themselves, Steel, once again, and figure out how are we going to have a place in this industry. We can't do one for one what Sony's doing in the old model. We can't compete on that level. We need to think of a different way. And Phil had the double duty of trying to convince a brand new CEO of one of the world's most powerful companies of why they should even exist. So what did he have to do? He had to find a way to say, look, we can gain an advantage in this industry while also making Microsoft Corp happy. And we can do that by tying our entire ecosystem into the Azure servers, which is Satya's bread and butter, his baby that he is pushing nonstop. They're in a war with Amazon, as everybody knows, the AWS. Yep. So he went to Satya and said, look, I've got a way we can do this, and I can make you happy. I can make the board happy. I can make the investors happy, and I can make our gamers happy, and I can make Xbox something. So here we are. That is competition. They had to go back and innovate. So guess what Microsoft is doing now? Microsoft is now behind this 100%. They are doing what they are able to do, which, yes, may be different from Sony, but that doesn't make it unfair. They are competing. They are going for the number one spot. They are no longer happy to sit in third, fourth, fifth spot on this list. They want to be the leaders in this industry going forward because they have big plans for this industry. Yes, it all ties in business-wise, money-wise to overall Microsoft Corp and the Azure servers and all that. Yes, of course. That's where they're at now. So they are competing. So Satya is saying, guess what? If you're talking about competition, that's what we're here for. Let's rock and roll. Let's do this.
Do competition.
And again, in business, there is no imaginary rules. As much as some of these gamers out here, some of these clowns out here want to think that there's some imaginary rule that because Sony has been number one, because they are still the mindshare leader, and because they got this perception that they grew all their studios. They bought cute little small studios and grew them, and they built them up into some big thing. You don't get to say, well, Microsoft's got to do that same thing. No. Whether Microsoft buys an established studio or buys an established publisher or grows their own, it's the same damn thing. It's their studio. They get to say what goes. They own those games. They own those IP. They're paying those developers. And all these people like to forget that Microsoft isn't buying these people and saying, hey, you guys are good. You guys don't get to expand. You guys don't get to grow. You just got to work with what you got. No, they're expanding every single one of these developers that they've purchased. They're letting them grow. They're making them bigger. Some of these developers are going from AA games to AAA games like Compulsion, like In Exile for the first time due to Microsoft's backing, due to the fact that they're allowing them to grow. This nonsense that all of a sudden, no, you got to do it by our way. You got to do it this way. No, they don't, because guess what? They ain't playing that game no more. They created their own game. Now Microsoft and Xbox are writing many of the rules. That's how business works anywhere. Somebody comes along, figures out a different or better way or more efficient way to do business in the same space. The old guys, they have to adapt or they will fail. And that's exactly what Sony is going to be forced to do. That is the competition. That is why Satya is so confident in all of this. And of course, he's going to show confidence. Again, I'm not denying the fact. I didn't think Satya was going to come out there and go, oh, we're really worried about this deal. It's getting tight. He's not going to do that.
Do I think he's Superman? No, I don't fucking think that either. No. He's doing, is he doing what he's supposed to do? Right. Duh. Like,
he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do, but he is giving the full backing. Once again, he is giving the everybody is on board with this deal. Everybody from the top down is on board with this deal, and this is not going to be the last.
That's what's important.
And again, Sony as a corporation, because they screwed up in so many different areas in their corporation. They were the dominant electronics maker back in the 80s and 90s.
That is my point.
Listen, they've gone through this. They should understand competition better than anybody. Did they start complaining when Yamaha came along and made better receivers? Did they go, that's not fair? that Yamaha's got a better chip than us, so they have a better sound? Did they complain when LG came along and all these other TV makers, Samsung came along and started making better TV sets? When if you didn't own a Sony Trinitron back in the day, you didn't have a TV, right? Listen, that Sony understands better than anybody, and just because all that's happened, and now Sony Corp relies on PlayStation so much for so much of their revenue, so for so much of their stock price, does not mean that just because Microsoft has a billion other things that they do, that Xbox is just one small pillar in a lot of pillars, and so they're not dependent upon Xbox. That doesn't make it all of a sudden unfair, or doesn't make it not competition anymore just because. That's not how any of this works. I don't care what anybody says. Microsoft is here to play. Satya, again, there's nothing else to be said. He's all in on gaming. He said that from the beginning. He's proven it. They've invested more into this industry
$100 billion, bro.
Any other company out there. They have invested more in this industry. So if you don't think that gaming isn't important, I don't care what their reasons are. Gaming is important to Microsoft. It is important to Xbox, and they're trying to do good things for all of us, trying to make everybody happy. Okay? And they're doing it the way that they've decided that is best for them. And that is competition. They are innovating. They are once again changing things up. That's how all of this works. That's how industries grow. So I think it's all nonsense, Steel, but I'm glad Satya came out, and I'm glad he gave that smirk. That smirk said it all.
Yeah. To me, it did. And again, some people are gonna be like, "Oh, he was reading off of this," and I was like, man, Well, again, if you don't understand how those types of things work, and you can break it down however you want to, I'm not gonna be the one to sit here and be like, "Oh, you should have took it this way." You're gonna take it however you want to take it. To me, it came across as someone who was ahead of one of the biggest corporations around the world, solidifying the fact that they're going to continue to support gaming for the inevitable future. And I think that's important because, to me, again, the best ecosystem right now, regardless of, Microsoft still has a lot of messed up things going on internally, right? Their servers are still ass. In some retrospects, their security seems to be very lax on certain things. And again, I can't be the guy to sit here and say that, oh, it needs to be this way, because that's just not my character, man. Like, those things take time. You can't account for everything. There's hackers being born every day, as we can see. They can start as early as 12 years old, bro, maybe even earlier. So you never know what the potential of what potential issues may arise. But again, it's solidified for me that they're serious. And Nick's brought up a point. He was like, if you look at it beyond gaming from a business perspective, Xbox is innovating the gaming space left and right. People who don't understand that just look at the gaming component. And Nick's like, I agree with that, but I also think that you can look at it from the gaming perspective and say that same thing, though. And that's my problem with people. It's like you're being disingenuous, not when you're not looking at it from the gaming perspective and saying how much it's opened up, right? Because it was so closed off before. Oh, you need this box to play these games, and you have to have this. Now it's more, it's becoming, hey, you have these devices. Well, you have these ways to play your games on those devices. And that's an important conversation to have, because that's an important conversation for me, and I think potential consumers for the future. Because another big conversation that always comes up for people is, oh, I can't keep any of my games, or I don't own any of it. Okay, well, what if I give you just perpetuity to it? You have the access to buy it whenever, you can keep it on the server, whatever the case may be, and I give it to you wherever you want it, wherever you're paying for it at. I don't see nothing wrong with that. Giving people the option. Again, that's me personally. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to beleaguer this point. Again, I could go on for a long time, because I normally stay out of certain places, Steel, because I don't like the energy, and I get really upset when I hear it's not just about being a different opinion.
Right.
It is the intellectual dishonesty where people ignore certain facts. And listen, I can't stand the people that sit out here and say, well, Microsoft should have done it the same way as Sony. I don't like the fact that Microsoft can just go buy their things. Why? So you wanted Microsoft to be content with the capped market space of the console, that they should have just keep fighting for that instead of trying to expand beyond the console market and trying to reach 2 billion, 3 billion people. You actually think for the health of the industry overall and for us gamers, it was better when it was the old days and we only had the consoles and that's only the space that they should go after. You can't honestly sit back and think to yourself and see how, if Microsoft and Xbox pulled this off, how gaming could be even healthier if we have a wholly integrated ecosystem where you can play whatever games you want to wherever you're at. You don't see the benefits in that. You got to tell me that you don't want this industry to grow because you just don't like where it's going, or you just don't like Microsoft coming in and buying publishers up. You honestly, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. If you are a gamer and you are sitting back and you don't understand that the chances of us getting more and more great games, yes, we're going to get a lot of games that you're probably not going to be interested in. But if you don't understand that investment, that if you get an ecosystem that can tap into 2 billion, 3 billion people at any given time, is not going to result in more great games that you do enjoy, I don't believe you. And I think it's nonsense, Steel. And I think it's downright intellectually dishonest to sit here and say that you think that the way Microsoft is going about it is somehow damaging the industry or making games less than they used to be. I don't know how you can sit back. I can understand how you can say, I don't like games as a service. I don't like monetization. I don't like mobile gaming. I understand those points. But there is no indication, Steel, that Xbox is suddenly moving away from quality or suddenly going to change the industry so that everybody just puts out Genshin Impact clones nonstop. There is nothing indicating that.
No.
Because you're not going to capture 2 billion, 3 billion people without having a diverse lineup that includes every single type of game.
Matter of fact, they've done the opposite.
Right.
By giving you more.
Right. That's the point. Because they have, in order to sell this to people, in order to get people to invest, they have to have representation for everybody as gamers. They have to. They can't ignore one or the other. They can't pick and choose. They can't have a single type game like Sony went to, where you only got the third person narrative over the shoulder heavy driven game. You can't go to that model and then rely on third parties. For Microsoft and Xbox, the key is having as many types of games as possible that cover everybody's interests. So that's going to include the big AAA narrative games. That's going to include role-playing games. That's going to include JRPGs. That's going to include, the simple casual pick up and play type games. It's going to include every single one of these genres. Racing. They have to. They have to. This is good for gamers and the industry at the end of the day. And it's never going to get to a point, it will never be allowed to happen, where Microsoft owns everything. That fear is completely misplaced and wrong. It will never happen in this industry. This industry is too big. Now, the industry might contract. The industry might come back to earth a little bit. It may have some points, ups and downs. That happens everywhere. But at the end of the day, there's still going to be so many people in this industry offering you so many different experiences that just the fact that Microsoft can come in and buy up a publisher or 2 publishers or 3 publishers is not going to change how or what people expect out of their games. Period. If you're not putting out quality, people are not going to subscribe to Game Pass. If that stupid narrative that everybody said, well, everything's going to be Game Pass fodder now, if you think that Microsoft is going to be successful with that, it ain't going to happen. And they know this. That's why you see them delaying games. That's why you see them investing in these devs to make sure that quality control is now priority number one versus the Xbox One era where we did get a lot of games that got pushed out the door unfinished. Microsoft and Xbox understand that people are not going to subscribe to their ecosystem for very long unless they're providing quality that people enjoy. And again, all you have to do is look to the other industries. Why did Amazon reportedly spend $1 billion on Rings of Power for one season? Because they understood that it had to be quality. Otherwise, people are not going to continue to subscribe to Amazon Prime. That's why you see the diverse lineup. You get the small movies, but you also get the big movies. And then you got Amazon themselves creating their own shows that they're spending $1 billion on one season to try to interest people. The same thing over Disney Plus. You can't all of a sudden have Disney. Again, we can have the argument about whether or not what they've done with Star Wars. Everybody knows my opinion. But what I will say is production value, Steel, they can't just slap anything out there that has Star Wars on it. They know that.
That's
the
fair.
Production value for Mando, the production value for Obi-Wan,
very high.
Very high.
Very high.
Movie quality production. They're not just slapping out some 80s looking TV show and saying, enjoy, it's Star Wars, go eat it up. That's not what they're doing. Because they understand without quality, people aren't going to stay subscribed. And Microsoft and Xbox are in the same boat.
Yeah, man. Exactly. Again, I mean, I don't know what more can be said about the direction that everything is going. But I will go a little bit more into this article a little bit, because I do think that it ties into like Xbox's Japan strategy or just their Eastern strategy also. But it's a little bit more from Satya. So he goes on to say, so in terms of outlook, I am optimistic about Microsoft's value proposition. I'm optimistic about our share, but we are not immune from anything that's macroeconomic headwind. So they go on, Bloomberg goes on to say the company has been slowing hiring and eliminating many open jobs. Again, it's kind of the market that we're in now too. Real world does have to settle in on all facets of no matter what industry that you're in. So that's something to consider. Including in its Azure cloud, but it's a security software unit as well as Windows and Office. Bloomberg News reported earlier this year about those job losses and everything. Nadella said the company will keep growing in some areas after adding approximately 70,000 workers during this pandemic. Again, they're adding more workers. That could be part of that number. With Activision Blizzard 2, again, that's that 10,000 number that we come up with all the time. With them, where those people could have been spread far and wide, and especially in this economy right now, there's no telling what could have happened with that. But I think that this, like the plays that Xbox is making and everything, I think this does tie into what Xbox is also trying to accomplish into the Eastern market, and why you're seeing more games from that side enter Game Pass, so that it can acquire a bigger audience, right? So there's another article brought to you by the Washington Post. This was written by Shannon Liao. There's a quick breakdown on it, which I will cover. Then we'll go into the article a little bit here, but it's Xbox wants Japan, but so far it's in unrequited love. And the little bit of a quick breakdown that I'm taking from it so far is that essentially this is speaking to the factor that the console market for Xbox is not doing, it's doing better, but it's not doing what it needs to. So let me see if I can get a little bit of this information. So, and these statements are also, Sarah Bond was also interviewed for this when speaking about Xbox's push to Japan and everything. So a lot of these quotes and everything that I'll be reading are going to be from Sarah Bond. So Sarah Bond goes on to say, it's taken us a long time for us to learn from our mistakes and really apply that and begin to build out both our hardware and product lineup and our creator relationships, said Sarah Bond after returning from the Tokyo Game Show. There's also goes on, research firm Ampere Analysis found Xbox sold fewer than 100,000 consoles in Japan last year compared to Sony. and Nintendo selling over 6.7 million. There's only so much Microsoft can achieve with its console product strategy in Japan. That came from Pierre Harding Rolls, as you guys can see on the screen right now. He's another analyst, games industry analyst, so he's breaking it down. But the other thing too is this is more recent. This is coming from Shan Liao also, who was from that Washington Post. Xbox only sold 2.3 million consoles in Japan in 20 years, but it wants to do better. Xbox VP of Gaming Ecosystem, Sarah Bond, explains how the company plans to win gamers over with more Japanese titles. And that's where it goes in the article from Washington. So U.S. video game console maker Xbox has never made its mark in Japan in terms of sales, but after 2 decades and several mishaps, it has no plans to give up. Last week, Xbox shared news on upcoming games at Tokyo Game Show, which is actually a pretty good show for those who did tune into that, and said that more Asian titles will be added to a subscription service at Game Pass. And honestly, again, Game Pass is going to have to be that vehicle, because we are also walking, well, part of the issue that we've seen in the ecosystem thus far is that for whatever reason, people are scared to try out games. And I say whatever reason, but to be completely honest with you, there has been more times than not where you've invested into a game. I've been through it, and it hasn't been all that it was crocked up to be. Now, I am also a gamer to where, because of that, I can make more intelligent decisions as far as games that I know I will play and enjoy. So it's kind of been a growth process for me. But it's in that same aspect, it's been kind of a growth process for Microsoft, because they are American based, to see that, hey, how can we get people to try these games out? So you get games like Scarlet Nexus that dropped into Game Pass, and I think because it did come into Game Pass, people like me and Pong, we played it day one. When it originally released, we bought it, paid full price for it, we loved it, and we're on the rooftop screaming out how great this game was. And then it dropped into Game Pass. I'm going to say maybe 90 days to 6 months later, and we weren't salty about it. We saw it as an opportunity for more people to experience it, and guess what happened? More people experienced it, loved it, and I think it gave...
Cyberpunk never dropped into Game Pass.
No, Cyberpunk didn't drop into Game Pass. Scarlet Nexus.
Oh, Scarlet Nexus.
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm talking about Scarlet Nexus.
I was reading Benji's sales on Cyberpunk. It just surpassed Witcher 3's all-time concurrent players.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 104,000.
That's crazy.
The top for Witcher 3 has been 103. So it just surpassed. Crazy. We'll get to that later. We might get to that later. So continue. Sorry.
Yeah. But as far as that goes, and I completely lost track, but
Scarlet Nexus.
Oh yeah,
dropped into Game. Yep.
Scarlet Nexus dropping into Game Pass, Steel. Even though me and Pong were invested within day one. Again, we bought it, whatever. We weren't salty about it dropping into Game Pass. More people played it when it came to Game Pass, and people who were on the fence tried it and were like, damn, man, this is actually a pretty good game. That's what we need to happen. Because without that, and I think my mic just disconnected, and there it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that me or you? Because
that was me. That was me. I'm going to try not to mess with anything. It's mad weird. But we need more of that, because again, waiting 5 years to sell 5 to 10 million copies of a game when most games don't even sell that much, and it's not adequate. I don't care how you look at it, whether that's how things have been. Oh, you should be grateful to sell 3 million copies of a game. Why? When I can have 5 million people see it, look at it, touch it, play it, get involved, tell their friends about it. Word of mouth spreads. Why do these old theories go out the window just because new things are happening? An old dog doesn't always have to learn new tricks. Not always, and not in all circumstances, as far as this goes. But it's just, I don't know, man. It's exciting to me to see that the push is being made, but it's also thing for me is seeing Xbox change its mindset, right? On how to approach things and what's going to end up working, because the Eastern market is not like us sitting at home playing the game. They're on the move. You have to put it in their face and giving them access to their phones, their tablets, to where they can get signed on in a cafe and just log in real quick and start playing. That's how you have to appeal to them, and that's how you have to grow. So that's the main thing on that. Bond said Xbox is betting the company's investment in a slate of Asian titles will pay off and show Xbox is more than just Halo and Forza. Again, she's saying this. This is crazy. Typically, Asian players have preferred to buy PlayStation Nintendo devices where they can find more Japanese role-playing games and narrative-based games. And again, I think that's also, it just ties into what I was saying earlier. I think it's also more so it just appeals to, because they're on the move. That's more so what it is. And yeah, of course, just like not everybody's going to be in the Eastern flavor. And sure, you want your Macho Man, Superman type characters. I think that's like an American type character, right? So of course we want those types of things because they represent power and everything. But you got to get that Eastern flair in there. We're invested in both the depth and breadth of the titles that are in our platform, and that's exactly how reputations are built, Bond. We said the game creators are more willing to take risks because of Game Pass, because they actually know that they're going to be more able to find an audience. Someone will fall in love with something that isn't necessarily that big. Brand name, but it is a really, really delightful player experience. Bond said there are over 250 developers in Japan building over 150 games to date, including titles like Tetris Effect, Connected, and Craftopia. Those titles will get to go live on Xbox platform. Even many are not exclusive during the Tokyo Game Show. Xbox announced that pre-existing PlayStation mainstay titles like Danganronpa, V3, Killing Harmony, and Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch are now available on Game Pass and has plans to bring Eiyuden Chronicles and several Persona titles to Game Pass over the. Again, this is about bringing more access to the overall market and showing the that Eastern market that we care, right? Again, it's a business move. It just makes sense. And the quicker that Microsoft can put it in their hand, again, that's why you see the doubling down of the cloud ecosystem, or the cloud infrastructure, I should say, is this reasoning, right? Because it's popping over there, and it's not. They're further ahead in that technology than we are typically over here, and we still have a far way to go to get everybody on the same path. How, Pong, do you feel like, although Xbox may not be selling the most consoles in Japan, do you feel like that's even their strategy in the first place? I know we've talked about this multiple times here anyway. And do you think that them releasing these types of games, that Eastern flavor, into Game Pass is going to be more of the strategy to win that market over versus just asking people to spend, especially now, $70 for those games?
It's competition, Steel. We just got done talking about this is competition, right? Microsoft has an uphill battle. We've talked about this plenty in the East because of their own failings of the past. Sarah Bond mentioned there. We've talked at length about this deal. As much as we talk about Eastern publishers cultivating a fan base on Xbox and why they need to give Xbox a chance to start dropping their games, the same goes for Xbox in reverse. They have to cultivate a fan base in Japan, Korea, etc. So they have their work to do over there. And I think the consoles are just one access point, Steel. Now that Xbox has moved beyond the box itself, now that they've created xCloud and Game Pass,
right,
and it can be accessed on multiple different devices at this point, that gives them the advantage to start cultivating over there. But you still have to have the boxes because that's most people's first entry point.
Right.
However, in the East, the mobile market is so big, that is different now. Are they ever going to catch Sony and Nintendo? No. But the simple fact that Microsoft wants to compete over there is now having them invest their time and money. They've got boots on the ground. They actually now have a Japanese division over there with people that are actually there. Their localization of their games is getting better and better, which has been a key missing point. So the fact that they're over there putting in this work, the fact that we are now seeing games like Guilty Gear, like Blaze Blue, like Ni no Kuni, like Persona, all come to the Xbox shows that it's working still. They are becoming harder and harder to ignore for these companies over there. If the companies are starting to look at what Xbox is offering, and we've heard about their ID at Xbox program nonstop. We've heard from developers who've worked directly with ID at Xbox how great it is and how well they are treated when they enter the Xbox ecosystem to create a game. All of that, now that they're putting that over there to these indie developers in Japan, the people that are the startups over there in Japan, the not well known talent right now, that shows me that they are saying, look, we may not be able to get all the Square Enix games. We might not be able to convince every publisher over there like NIS to bring their games over here. But if we start at the ground level, if we start with the smaller developers first, and we build a reputation as being, yes, we are still got that stigma which carries over in the East, that we are a Western company, but we are here to do business with you on your home turf, and we want to come to you to help you make your dreams come true as a game developer. That reputation is going to be built at that level, and it's going to spread upwards, and we're starting to see it already, Steel. And I think that while, yes, people can say, well, you're getting a bunch of the older games. Hey, this is, Ni no Kuni was a PlayStation 3 game. Yeah, you're right. You're right. We are getting a bunch of the older games. Guilty Gear has been out for a year now, right? We know this, but it has to start somewhere. And yes, it's going to be important to see those same companies turn around when they got a brand new IP, or they've got the next game in a franchise, dropping those games on Xbox day one. Not necessarily even in the Game Pass, just available on Xbox. That is going to be another key indicator and going to be very important. But at the end of the day, Microsoft is building relationships now, Steel. They're building relationships in a way that they never have before. The Xbox 360 generation, they tried, but they did it the old way. They went over there, threw around some money bags and said, hey, make us exclusive games, right? They got Sakaguchi to make Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey, right? They went over there and said, we're going to buy a couple of exclusives or some exclusives. And it worked because the Xbox 360 did sell decently over there for Xbox. I'm not talking about compared to Sony or Nintendo, but it did well. Now Microsoft is saying, nope, we're not just going to do that. Yes, we're going to invest in games. Sarah Bond also talked about that they are going to have exclusives, that they are working with developers to bring exclusives to Microsoft from the East as well. So they're going to have those as well. But overall, they are going after the human beings over there. They are going at a human level to say, we want to help you guys make your visions a reality. We've got xCloud now. You can bring your games to a whole new audience in a whole new way, never seen before. Hence why Kojima signed his contract with Xbox. All of a sudden, Xbox now has a new gateway. They have a new opportunity for people to get their games in the hands of new people, new audiences around the globe. And it doesn't have to be just through the box anymore. And so I think that that's what Xbox is putting all of these pieces in play at one time. And Steel, you and I have talked about this. Getting there, getting those relationships built, finding this new talent that is springing up all over the world, not just in Japan. Yes, I know Japan's important. It's important to Phil. He's talked about it nonstop. He understands the history of Japan in the video game industry, obviously. He gets it. He wants that. But it's going to be places like Korea, Steel, where we're seeing some of the most impressive new games, at least as looking goes, graphically, coming out of these kind of unknown areas. Yes, they've been around, but now this talent is just blossoming everywhere. And we've seen Xbox say they've already got a team in Africa now, Steel, helping developers in Africa, which is a completely untapped place. Completely. So that tells me, Steel, that they've got this down now. They are now in a position with Microsoft's backing, with them being seated at the big boy table, that they now are, they've
done exactly what they said they were going to do. They're going after 2 billion, 3 billion people. You can't just focus on the same old markets over and over again. And you have to be everywhere at all times so that people know that you're around, that you exist, that you are not just the old Microsoft of old, that you're not that old evil Western Empire, kind of company who bullied everybody back in the 90s, 80s, and 90s. That you are now an open company, that you are now a diverse company, that you are somebody who is interested in getting these creators artwork, as you say, Steel. It is art. Getting this art out to more people than ever before, and being the company that is going to allow that to happen versus even Nintendo and Sony, who are still much more closed off than what Xbox is going for. And I think all of that is working in their favor. And I think it's showing, Steel. It's showing. So this was a great article and great to see. Again, numbers wise, yeah, they're still just they're a tiny drop in a big bucket over there, but they're making ripples. That tiny drop is having a ripple effect, and I think that's the difference this time around.
Yeah, and that's 100% a fact, right? I think off of that, where do you want to take it from there, man? It's a couple different directions. Hey, everybody's favorite Shawn Laydrn joins Tencent, guys. Are you excited about that?
Yeah.
And he's joining as a strategic advisor. So, I mean, does this beg the question, does Shawn Laydrn still have the juice? What would you guys say? In an update, this is coming from Wario64. Shout out to Wario, man. Constantly saying he's like the Batman in these Twitter streets, keeping us updated, letting us know what's going on. And making sure we got it in our DMs, I feel like. So, but again, looks like Shawn Laydrn has joined Tencent Games as a strategic advisor, according to his LinkedIn post. Shawn Laydrn on LinkedIn, looks like, update. I am delighted to share that I have recently joined Tencent Games as a strategic advisor. In this new role, I hope to advise, assist, and support the team at Tencent as they deepen their activities and commitments within the industry to which I've devoted the majority of my career. We are an epoch of defining moment in gaming and interactive entertainment. There are many possible roads ahead, but only a few are profound. Broadening, inclusive, edifying, inspiring, or sustainable. I am thrilled to continue this journey of discovery and thank Tencent for the opportunity. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, Tencent has a big switch in the back in their very dark basement that they could flip on at any time. But regardless of how you feel about that, I do think that them getting Shawn Laydrn could be a sign of good intention. I don't know whether
good intention, intent. It's a precursor. Yes. Okay.
It could be a good sign, that they want some good favor, that they're wanting things that maybe they want to live in the good favor of the gamer. Because there is a very dark cloud above them, with them being a trying to find a better way to put it. What's a good way to put it, Pong?
There's no way to put it. They're backed by the Chinese government. Listen, you can't take that away. And yes, I know the Chinese government has slapped Tencent around a little bit and has put some restrictions on them and whatever else. So that shows that Tencent might be doing things outside of the government's realm that they don't like, because the government did come down on them for a couple different things. And the Chinese government does not overall like gaming. We've heard about the restrictions they put on children playing games and all that kind of stuff. They believe it is a detriment to their society, all that stuff. So Tencent isn't necessarily like the crowning jewel of the Chinese government, but any business that gets that big in China is a part of the government at the end of the day. And that's the worrisome that we brought in, no matter what.
Yeah, and Silent Cypher, like you said, bringing on Laydrn doesn't wipe away their history and their backing. Again, I don't disagree with you. And again, but it is, at the end of the day, what are they going to do for us as the consumer? Because you're still going to consume their content. Now, if you choose not to consume their content, there's something different. But Tencent is now, I'm not going to say trying. They are making sure that you do recognize who they are. Again, if you're playing Warframe right now, you're you're backing Tencent. Tencent has 100%, has full investment in that. They do own that dev team now, if I'm not mistaken. So it's, again, we're trying to, there is a very fine line to be had here, depending on what side of the fence as far as this goes. And it can be a very detrimental line if erased. And it does have the potential of that happening. Again, shout out to Shawn Laydrn. He's good. From what I know, he's good people. But again, he is also going to do what's going to make the most business sense to him. Whether they offered him a big bag to get his expertise, that's probably exactly what happened. And for some people, again, if you're giving me an advisor role and you want my ideas on what's going to work, then yeah, pay me for it. And some people don't have that. I don't know. I don't want to necessarily say it's a bone because I don't want to put his credentials in question or put his integrity in question. But if it's for the betterment of money, I feel you, bro. But if
he's a hypocrite, Steel. He's a hypocrite.
You think that's what it is?
He's a hypocrite.
I mean, I was trying to like steer away from it, man. I was trying to steer away from it.
I like Shawn Laydrn. He had the gall to come out and speak out against what Microsoft and Xbox are doing. Yes. To talk bad about Game Pass, to say it's unsustainable, that it's bad for the industry. He had the gall to go out there and speak publicly about this stuff and then turn around and accept a check from could potentially be one of the most nefarious companies to enter this industry in a long time and take the bag at the end of the day. Again, I'm not going to fault anybody for taking the bag, but don't come speak about other people's business and then turn around and join a company like Tencent. Don't do it. Don't do it, Steel. But what I will say, Steel, this is a precursor. This is a precursor, I think, to Tencent getting into the console industry. I think this is a precursor to Tencent doing so. Yes. I think this is the initial start, potentially. Again, I could be completely wrong about this. I could be.
I like it.
They could be using Shawn Laydrn to get more context within the gaming industry. They could be using Shawn Laydrn to advise them of some prime targets that he sees within the gaming industry, because there's no doubt that Shawn Laydrn does identify talent very well. He did that at Sony. So that could all just be what this is. But I think this is my opinion, that this is a precursor to Tencent getting into the console market or releasing some type of device in some form or fashion to get into the gaming space in a different way. And I think that they're going to use Shawn Laydn's obvious experience, which is invaluable, to do that. And I think that that's probably what he's advising on in the background, is different avenues of how they can do this. I will die laughing, Steel, if Tencent somehow creates a subscription service or makes some moves on some bigger companies instead of just investing. I will die if they enter the subscription space with Shawn Laydrn as their advisor. This will be hilarious. So listen, again, I'm never going to fault anybody for taking the bag. You got to decide for yourself. I personally would not. He had Steel, you can't tell me he didn't have opportunities throughout the company, throughout the industry. There's no way that he didn't have offers from multiple people. If I had multiple offers on the table and Tencent just so happened to be the largest, I'm sorry, I'm taking a lesser. I can't do it. But obviously Shawn feels differently.
Yeah, I mean, hey, some people can make you an offer that you can't refuse. And Again, I'm not surprised when those types of situations come up. I know it's like, it seems those situations only happen in movies. No, you'll be surprised if you flash out a big bag, what it'll make some people do. So, hey, congrats to him. I mean, do what you feel is necessary for you and your family, and your business, your name. And
hey, Steel, did you notice who was one of the first people to congratulate him?
Who?
Phil.
Did he really?
Oh yeah. He did it on Twitter publicly, congratulated him and said that I hope that you can, I'm paraphrasing unless you can find it, but he said something like, I hope you can bring like something like a fresh vision to Tencent or something like that. Listen, I said it last night on Xbox Ultimate, the old saying, keep your enemies closer. Yeah. Phil is going to use this. Xbox has already dealt with Tencent. Like they've got a mobile deal with Tencent. Xbox has already done some dealings with Tencent, or Xbox has already done some dealings with them. Now the fact that Shawn Laydn's there, if you don't think Phil is not going to be on some calls with Shawn and keeping that friendship close, yeah, you better believe he is. He's going to get some in. He's going to try
Insight.
to use it to his advantage to get some insight into what Tencent's doing and going forward, because Phil has said it publicly. Tencent is one of those companies that's looming out there, and so he's definitely going to use this to his advantage for sure.
Yeah, I don't see why not. It makes a smart move, and hopefully he can probably steer that massive comet that could potentially destroy an entire continent in the right direction to hopefully miss us. Hopefully that's what ends up happening. Again, we'll see. We don't know how this can all go. Again, gaming is teetering a fine line of, especially with everything going so PC and everything, where we're teetering a very fine line to where where the people will lose full control. Well, people will lose control. We're already starting to move towards that direction, and that is the bigger conversation to have, right? I'm not saying that because of this, it's going to happen, but again, it's just something. The human element is always something to consider, and with certain businesses being run the way that they are, especially with the Chinese government and everything. Again, I'm not the most political dude, but I do understand that how things are going over there, and it's not what we would want. So we just gotta keep an eye on things, make sure we stay vocal.
Shout out to the chat. Shout out to Splendid for showing up as usual. Shout out to Nix who said Phil said, quote, Shawn, I hope you can provide some new fragrance from that 10-cent stench. I like it, Nix.
I mean, again, because Phil has come out and said that, Tencent is one of those competitors that he is looking out for. So, hey,
shout out to Tim the Sorcerer, shout out to Highlander, shout out to Hyperfang Gaming, Silent Cypher, Vic the Click, of course, showing up in here. And Vic said, I wish we had the Microsoft of the past. Xbox needs to be the bully. Look, Vic, they are still being bullish. They really are, but they're doing it with a smile now, and they're doing it with open arms, but they're still bullying in their own way. Trust me. Again, $70 billion purchase is a form of bullying in business, okay? They are making their moves still, but I do understand what you're saying. Spider-Man 356, great to see you. Silent Cypher, always awesome to have you in here. Talus, Ray, great to see you as well. Six Leia has been hanging out the entire time. Jay Rembrandt, great to see you. It's Timmy is in the house as well. So many freaking fantastic people in here. I saw 3-Bit jump in here earlier. Shout out to you, brother. Lurking, probably working. That man is busy. He's in the industry. Shout out to Dip Down Games, who are just on the Iron Lords podcast. Shout out to you, brothers, for joining us as well. And they became, they subscribed as well.
Hey.
Number 620. Appreciate you, Dip Down Games. Def Leopard, Andrew Cullinane. Look at all these beautiful people in here. We got Thunder for Shock in here. Man, Jesse Darby's dropping in here. Shizno Elite. Always great to see you, my friend. Jason Hackett. What up, brother? Great to have you in here as well. Listen, if you are in here, we appreciate you. Whether you, again, you're spending 5 minutes with us or you're spending 3+ hours with us. We appreciate you all the same, whether you listen live or whether you're listening into the future on your favorite audio platform. Nice. We don't care. Please, if you haven't already hit that like button, please do so. It's the business side. Steele and I don't do a whole lot of the business stuff, but it does help us. If you got a moment to share it out, share it out. We see a lot of people on Twitter doing that. Shout out to everybody who's doing that. Lore Master Jasper, actually, guys showing up here, Guardian Black. Appreciate you all. Perfect Shogun as well. Listen, we love you all. Thank you all for being here with us on this Saturday and taking your time. So thank you very much.
Facts. And Perfect Shogun, this game is synced. I spoke about this game it's been some months ago now. But there was a open beta for it on PC. It's kind of like a battle royale. It has a little bit of a different take on it. You drop in with the team. You do have lives. You go around killing monsters and things. Basically, it's a PvE/EVP game. You kill monsters, get this resource to help you level up. That's how you also level up your guns and things, along with picking up weapons off the floor in these different areas that you find. But then you also have that PvP element where people can run up on you. It's more objective based though, to where you get to an objective, and if you get to that objective, it's worth so much points. and if you capture it in full, you get those points, and that's typically the best way to help you win the game. Or you can also use it to catch up if you're behind. So it's a cool game.
It does look really good. It does look really good.
Yeah, I mean, I like the concept behind it. You also get the other part of it is that as you're defeating these enemies, they do have like their higher grade enemy types that you essentially can absorb, and it could be part of your, like, it becomes part of your arm. Has like an Iron Man kind of an effect, but you can call it out. It can fight with you, so you have, it's like an alien kind of thing going on. It's pretty cool. K Mega, what's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Joe Dunmore in here as well. K Mega, what's going on, brother? Great to see you in here as well. Guardian Black, thank you for dropping in here again. We'd love to shout out everybody that we can, but appreciate you all.
Yeah, big facts. Depending on how you want to go, there was another smaller topic here. I know we talked a little bit about Elder Scrolls yesterday. Has been the top 100 global highest revenue games on Steam for 400 weeks in a row without leaving. Ladies and gentlemen,
Benji Sales. Shout out to Benji Sales.
Shout out to Benji Sales for breaking that 100%. It's really crazy when you think about it. 400 weeks in a row, highest revenue game in the top 100. Again, that money is coming in. If you ever question why Bethesda, ZeniMax, they were able to do some of the things they were able to do, they got an online game that's thriving, man. It hasn't left the top 100 in 7.5 years. Benji says, whoa, I knew it was a long-term success, but I had no idea it was steadily generating this kind of revenue.
These are the games, Steel, that people don't think about. It's just like, it's a lot like mobile. It's like we see the numbers when they come out, and it's staggering to think about. Like, it's like we're such a small bubble in the games that we play. And again, I was a big ESO player on PS4, right? I've got a few hundred hours into it. Again, the only reason why I don't play it because I can't transfer my character Bethesda from PlayStation to Xbox. It sucks. So ESO is a fantastic experience. But when you see that, put it in writing, it hasn't left the top 100 in 7.5 years. That is freaking nuts, man. Because ESO is just like there, it exists. There's obviously a huge fan base, player base, but people just don't talk about it like they talk about the latest and greatest IP. It's like World of Warcraft's been doing for 20 years, right? Everybody just, when you think about that fact, it's like, wow, this is absolutely insane that a game has this kind of longevity. And again, it's the most up-to-date game. World of Warcraft looks like crap compared to nowadays games, but yet it's still there. It's still making billions of dollars for these companies. And like Steele said, ESO is funding a lot of stuff. And people wonder why that they're still putting money into Fallout 76. Guess what? Fallout 76 is up there too on the list, right? Fallout 76 is still making them money. So as much as it got dogged, as much as people say, who plays Fallout 76 anymore? Guess what? Thousands upon thousands of people, if not million people, play Fallout 76 to this day. So all of this goes down into all these investments, and ABK deal is so much more than Call of Duty. We all know Call of Duty is the big one, right? That's, again, it's the easiest diamond to pick out that. But all these other games, like when we talk about King and we talk about Candy Crush, still to this day, how long has Candy Crush been out? Candy Crush was out during my first marriage, for God's sakes, man. Hey, my ex-wife, Candy Crush, my ex-wife was playing Candy Crush. Listen, this game's been around forever, and it still makes more money than Call of Duty. ROI, return on investment. That's why people invest in these games. That's why these games continue to live. As much as we like to think that we're on the forefront of gaming, there's this huge, gigantic audience out there of casuals, of MMO players that aren't in these communities, that don't talk about it all the time, that are playing these games daily. It's absolutely insane how big this industry is.
Yeah. And it just shows you that it all it takes is one game to come along. That's why you see different people trying to go for that one. But again, it also demonstrates that it has to be more than surface level BS. You have to have integrated systems, a good story, a world to kind of live in, because that's the other thing considering with Elder Scrolls Online. It is overall a good game. I enjoyed my playtime with it, and this is probably the main Bethesda game that really sticks out to me. You know what I mean? So like, this is one that I would go back to. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, it's an excellent Elder Scrolls experience. I will never shy anybody from. If you're a huge Elder Scrolls fan and you can't get enough, go play ESO. It's fantastic.
Again, if me liking it doesn't tell you guys enough, I don't know what to say. I'm just saying. All right. Where are we going to take this next? Another small topic here. You know, guys, we talk about games and the potential of what could be coming out within the next couple of years. Idle Sloth did sloth Jeff Grubb and got his breakdown. Although, if you listen to Jeff Grubb, you probably would have heard him announce this anyway. But Jeff Grubb did announce that a little bit of a prediction of what could possibly come out in 2020. Now, most of these titles, he did say could get pushed out. So
yeah, it wasn't really a prediction. This was the old roadmap internally at Xbox.
Yeah.
So he had found out what the roadmap looked like. What I think he said this was from 2020. I think 2020 was when he got this roadmap. So in 2020, this is what Xbox had envisioned coming out in 2023.
Okay, so if this is the vision, and I would just give you a quick breakdown for those who didn't see it. It was going to be Avowed, Fable, Perfect Dark, Everwild, Hellblade 2, Contraband, In Exile's next game, Compulsion's next game, and Coalition's next non-Gears project. Out of these games, 2023, I do see Avowed possibly coming. Hellblade 2, I think is going to be early 2024. Contraband is definitely possible, and Coalition is definitely possible to come out this year, depending on how far they're in that project. And again, with them being the masters of the Unreal Engine, I can probably rest assured to the people that they'll probably jump on something. Again, it's supposed to be a smaller experience. Maybe it's an 8 to 10 hour game. I'm not going to say like, oh, it only takes 6 months to make a game, but per our understanding, because they were the first ones with Unreal Engine 5. They probably have had this for at least 3 years, working on whatever game that they were working on in the background as they were testing this out, and getting familiar with it. So I can see that coming in 2023. So at least 3 of these could end up dropping. Pong, I mean, what do you think? Do you think these games will still come out by 2024?
2023?
Well,
this
no,
is an
going into 2024.
Yeah, 2024. No, this is an interesting conversation, right? So we know we got Redfall, we got Starfield, and we've got Forza, right? We know those 3 next year. Now, we've talked about on paper, 2023 across the industry could be one of the best years ever in gaming, no matter where you're playing at. We don't know a whole lot about Sony's roadmap. We know about the Forspokens. We know that Factions probably will be out next year. Everybody's assuming Spider-Man 2 is going to be the big game next year for Sony. We know they've got those games as a service. Sony's the unknown dark horse next year about what they're going to come out. But between Nintendo and between Xbox, next year could be huge. Now, as Steele just explained, when Grubb talked about these were the internal lists. So again, Avowed, Fable, Perfect Dark, Everwild, Hellblade 2, Contraband, In Exile, Compulsion, and Coalition's next game. We talked about this last night on Xbox Ultimate, and Mav went around and we got all of our guesses out about how many first-party big games will be next year. And that includes second-party deals like published games like Contraband is from Avalanche. I'm saying that realistically, 6 to 7 games from Microsoft next year. I think there's the potential for 8 games. I think there's an outside potential shot at 8 games. And actually, when I started going through the list last night, I wound up about there. So here's what I think. We got Redfall, Forza, Starfield. That's 3. I think Avowed is ready next holiday. I think that they've been converting over to Unreal 5. I think they get that done. So I think Avowed is Obsidian's game. Now, we had heard Obsidian wants to put out 1 game every year for the next 5 years. I think Avowed makes sense. Outer Worlds 2 will come in 2024, but I think Avowed is 2023. We got Avowed, that's 4. Fable, nope. Fable's 2025, okay? Fable, don't expect, maybe holiday 2024, maybe, but I think 2025. Perfect Dark, 2025. 2024, maybe as well. Everwild, 2025 plus. Hellblade 2, I'm on the same train as Steel. I've been on this train. I think Hellblade 2 could surprise. holiday 2023, but I think more realistically, they're going to give Ninja Theory as much time as they need. That is going to set the bar for all other games when it comes to quality, when it comes to graphics. Again, we saw a short snippet at the Game Awards. We already know Hellblade 2 is going to be that game. This is going to set the bar for this generation. I believe that. I believe Ninja Theory is going to be given as much time to polish that thing, spit shine it till it is brighter than the sun. And that's why I think they give them till spring of 2023 or 2024, excuse me. But it could surprise holiday 2023. But I think Hellblade 2 gets pushed out. Then you've got Contraband. I think Contraband is next year. So that's now 5 games I have. Contraband next year. In Exile and Compulsion. Between those two, one of those 2 games comes out next year. With how active In Exile social media has been, with Compulsion still growing as a studio. In Exile is growing too, but they're working on multiple projects over at In Exile. Compulsion is still growing. They're still the smallest, most inexperienced studio out of all the studios that Microsoft purchased between 2017 and 2018. Compulsion is the one that's got the most growth to do. So I think Compulsion gets pushed to 2024. I think In Exile is ready next year. So there's 6 right there. Okay. Coalition's next game, depending on size and scope, we don't know anything about this game. Yeah, I think Coalition's game could be ready next year. We don't know any size or scope. I'm going to give that like a half, so I'm at like 6.5 right now. Okay. Now, here's the stuff that isn't on this list that we know is being worked on somewhere, or we think is being worked on somewhere. It is working on something. It's been working on something for quite a while. Since Doom Eternal dropped. We all believe that it's probably the Quake reboot. Okay. We think they're going to bring back Quake. I think Quake's ready next year. I thought it potentially could have been ready this year. I think it gets it out next year. I think the Quake reboot happens. So that's 7.5 if you count Coalition's game. And then another one is Machine Games. Machine Games has been working on something as well. And a lot of people believe that obviously Indiana Jones, we know that one in public. Indiana Jones, I don't think is ready until 2024. But Machine Games has also been, we all believe they have to be working on Wolfenstein to finish off that trilogy. There's no way they're not working on Wolfenstein. Now, is Wolfenstein ready next year? That's a big question. If that is ready, now you're talking 8 games. Then you got other dark horses out there. You got ZeniMax Online, who's been working on a new game for a long time. We know that for a fact. ZeniMax Online could come out with a brand new MMO, okay, that we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
They've been working on something on the side for about 3 years now. So that would put it at 4 years.
It could be the Starfield Online.
It could be Starfield MMO. Eventually that's going to come. We all know that. That is eventually going to come. So there's some dark horses, but that's why I say realistically, with the way things are going, with the way Microsoft is giving all these studios time, with how they're not pushing things out the door, if we get 6 next year, if we get 6 to 7 games for the next 3 years, that's going to be one hell of a run. That's one every 2 months. Remember, Phil said 1 a quarter. That'll be one every 2 months.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hell of a run. Between 18 and 21 games over the next 3 years from first party AAA. Bro, that's a huge run. And I think it could happen. But I think realistically 6, I think potential is there for 8 next year.
And that's not even accounting the deals
ABK,
that they may have.
That's not counting ABK. That's not counting anything else.
That's literally only and that's my only thing. Like, you hear, and that's why I kind of wanted to talk about this, because this conversation keeps happening and it always ramps me up and gets me like in a place where I feel like I'm overamped up. I think I'm gonna go to the mall today. Sorry guys, got distracted. I got some hot topic coupon. But no, main reason why I wanted to bring this up is not because of what Jeff Grubb brought up about the potential of the list that Microsoft had before as far as the games for 2023. What I wanted to bring up is just the fact that in Pong basically solidified it, bringing up all those games, is that Oh, you have all those games, right? And that's just for first party. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, this year is a dead year because Xbox didn't drop any first party games and it's unacceptable and it's not okay. There's
Shout out Titanium for dropping in here as well. We got all the family members dropping in here today.
All right. Hey, shout out to Titanium. He said, talk to the engine dude, hit me up after. Hey, I'ma go. Okay. Shout out to Titanium. Much love to the Brody. He's the bane of why I'm playing Destiny currently, on and off still. But to get back into it, people say there's nothing to play. First party games matter. And Pong just gave you a list of games that could more than likely come out next year, right? What about all the other games in between? Game Pass matters, right? We just gave you games that, they're going to come in. That's why Game Pass also matters, because they're going to come day and date. But where about all those other games in between? That's what gets me excited. Because typically, a lot of those first-party games that Pong mentioned, there's some good ones in there that I might try them out, but not all of those that I'm just going to jump in and want to play. What I'm going to end up playing is those games that we don't know about yet. Where's Pokey V at? What if that comes into Game Pass? Now me and Pong are running around with freaking these Pearl and these little kids and this Pearl Abyss engine and fucking having a good time. Fucking
shout out to Pokey V.
Using monsters. KV. Experiencing something completely different. That could release next year. We don't know. But just using that as an example, there's so many things that could come into the fold that it's hard for me just to look at games from the first party perspective. Like, oh, if Xbox doesn't put out these games and their value it's undetermined. I don't know. It's not worth it. For me, it's that way. I understand why people are like, oh, well, with these games not being there, it's a loss. Even if half those games come out next year. I am so excited about the potential of all the other games. Again, we spoke earlier, there's almost 200 games right now in development in the East. Right? No telling what else is getting done right now. Devolver is always doing things behind the scenes. That's another starlight for me here recently, especially in the last couple of years. I think after Death's Door, they just literally kind of lit a flame for me. There's somebody to always look for. But again, there's so much potential to what could end up happening going into the next 5 years of gaming, bro. Like it's hard to kind of.
It's hard to fathom. It's hard to wrap your brain around how many games we're going to have to play. It really, really is, just with Game Pass alone. And if you own multiple systems, if you own all 3 systems, bro.
Yo, good luck to you. Again, I don't know where the time is found where people just have all day to play games. Hey, if you're getting paid for it, shout out to you, man.
Everybody's turning into grazers, Steel. Everybody's turning into grazers. That's what they want. Everybody's turning into meat.
See, but that's the other thing that we're going to run into. It's like, as long as they're coming into Game Pass, I guess that's not a terrible thing. Yeah. But at some point, you got to run through those titles, man. You got to fully experience.
Maybe.
He said maybe.
But I don't, like you said, people, again, I don't think realistically that most people do. I think most people play games like I do at the end of the day. Probably. Even the games that they buy, I still think that's a fact that most people play games and play maybe 25-50% of the game and then move on to something else. I really do. Because I know, again, there's a small subset of people who finish every single game that they start or only play 1 game or 2 games max at a time, and their backlogs are gigantic. But I think most people at this point in this industry, with how much content there is, are grazing to a great degree. And I really do believe that.
Yeah. That could be very well possible for sure. Let's see. What else did you want to get into today, Paul? What you got down there on your?
Let's talk about Cyberpunk, man. Let's talk about Cyberpunk. This is a big deal on more levels. I don't see a whole lot of people talking about it. Again,
of course,
who talks about old games? It's stupid. Cyberpunk is a has-been already at this point. But listen, I think that there's a couple interesting things here, Steel, that not everybody's touching on. When it comes to Cyberpunk. So for anybody who doesn't know, obviously Cyberpunk is back on a hot streak. I just mentioned it early when Steel was talking, when I interrupted when I thought he was talking about Cyberpunk. But Benji Sales just put out, Benji's been tracking this all week. Again, shout out to Benji, does freaking fantastic work with this stuff. He put out a tweet today saying Cyberpunk 2077 just passed all-time Steam peak concurrent players for The Witcher 3. Cyberpunk at 104,827. The Witcher 3's all-time peak was 103,329. Benji goes on to say, absolutely nuts. Nearly 2 years after launch, Cyberpunk has more people playing it right now on Steam than The Witcher 3 ever had. Listen, why this is interesting, and I'm not going to do a Cyberpunk ad. We've done plenty of that between Steel and I since day one. Since day one. You want to talk about people, again, we talked about the hate train that Cyberpunk got. People never even tried the game, were hating on the game like it was the worst thing ever without actually playing it. Again, last gen consoles, terrible. Current gen consoles and PC, very good. For me, it's a GOAT, top 10 all-time game. But I think what's interesting here, Steel, is what Edgerunners has done. We talk about transmedia all the time, right? Embracer Group is going full bore into this. We talk about this overlap now between the entertainment industry and between video games. So we're talking about movies and TV, books, manga, all that stuff, and video games. And how this now IPs have become ultra important. IPs that you can take to more than just gaming, or IPs that are more than just movies or books. Transmedia, media that can be put out elsewhere. You're seeing this effect happen live, Steel. Edgerunners from Trigger Animation, which is one of the best animation studios in the world right now. Trigger takes Cyberpunk. This was a deal that CD Projekt Red had created prior to the game even launching. They talked about the anime was going to be coming out. They take this. Cyberpunk comes out. Still sells really well. I think it sold 13 million copies out the jump, right? It sold over 18 million copies as of the beginning of the year or something like that. Still a success to some games, but to Cyberpunk's potential, it actually could have been much bigger. Had Cyberpunk come out the way that it plays now, or had they dropped last gen versions and just focused on current gen and PC, Cyberpunk could have easily been a 30 million seller, 35 million seller. That could have been big as Witcher 3, I believe personally. That's how good this game is. But that's not what happens. So Cyberpunk comes out, all the hate happens. Yes, there's a ton of praise from critics. There's a ton of people out there that are saying exactly what I said. This is a freaking awesome game. You got to play it. If you got a current gen console or if you're on PC, play Cyberpunk. It's worth it. But too many people got on the hate train. It got buried. So it didn't live up to its potential. But here in its back pocket, CD Projekt Red has this animation. They have this animation in Edgerunners. They know this show is going to come out. CD Projekt Red, this whole entire time leading up to now, has been patching the game, fixing the game, making the game what it should have been. Again, no excuse for its broken state when it came out. Again, bugs are subjective. Some people have a big problem with bugs. Other people like myself, most bugs don't bother me as long as they're not game breaking. As long as they don't take away from my time or corrupt my saves, we're good. I can live with bugs. I think bugs are funny a lot of times. So they fixed this game this entire time, leading up to when the anime is going to drop, when Edgerunners is coming out on Netflix. They have got one of the best studios in animation working on it in Trigger. They do all of this, get it into a good spot, and then Edgerunners drops. CD Projekt Red does a huge blowout on the anime. They also drop some DLC free into Cyberpunk that ties into the anime itself. The anime is canon, so they are taking everything from the game is in the anime itself, and they tie all of this in. And now what are you seeing? You're seeing people go watch the anime and think that this is one of the best animes to come out in a long time. People are praising this thing left and right. And all of a sudden now everybody, including those who are hating on this game without ever playing it, want to go jump into the game. And here it is 2 years later, a resurgence is happening with Cyberpunk. This is what I said was the best case scenario for CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk. They now have like a second launch point. Now you have it beating The Witcher 3 and concurrent Steam users. That is so freaking impressive. But what it does show is it shows the power of transmedia. And why I bring this up is because we've seen this happen. We saw Halo Infinite come out with a TV show, but the TV show wasn't canon. TV show was a different timeline, right? I forget what they call it, the silver timeline or something like that. Sorry, Chad, I believe that's what it is. If you have IP that big and you tie it into a TV show, an anime, or whatever the case may be, and you do it right, this is now the effect that it can have on your business going forward. CD Projekt Red has now laid the roadmap perfectly. And we saw this with The Witcher prior, right? Witcher 3 was already gigantic in the video game industry. They turned it into a successful Netflix show. And it breathed new life into The Witcher 3 as well. Plenty of people watched The Witcher 3 show or The Witcher show and said, I got to go back and play Witcher 3 again. But this is how it can work with an IP that has underperformed. If you tie things in right, it can amplify your success. That's why going forward, the embracer groups are gobbling up all of this IP that they believe can work in multiple places, because this is what the success can happen from that. And I'm so happy for CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk. Again, no excuses for what happened. Their management screwed up huge. I don't blame the devs. I blame the management team that forced them to continue to have last gen version, that forced the game out before it was ready. It should have been delayed another year. I don't blame the devs at all, but I'm happy for CD Projekt Red, because as a gamer and as somebody who believes that Cyberpunk is one of the best games to come out over the past couple decades, again, top 10 for me, and it's go. It's solidified. It's nonstop. And I know not everybody agrees with that, but again, I don't want this franchise to die before it even had a chance to begin. And that's what I was afraid was going to happen with Cyberpunk, is that it underperformed to the internals because of all the problems. And that CD Projekt Red might not go back to it again. But guess what? Now that this is happening, CD Projekt Red is going to continue with Cyberpunk. They've already come out and said this is not the end of the franchise. They're going to continue forward. We might get a Cyberpunk 2 out of this, which I would be thrilled with, obviously. And this is how this transmedia can now work. And this is why IPs have become so important to all these companies. And Steel and I have talked about it a lot because, again, love what Embracer Group's doing. But I think that now that this is happening, a company like Microsoft, like Xbox, that already own a ton of IP, a ton of successful IP, has the opportunity to take all those IP to a whole nother level when it comes to this. This is why I said that I eventually see Microsoft jumping back into the entertainment industry as a whole. That's why I said WB Discovery would be a great buy for them, to jump back into this as a complete package where they can make all this stuff. Can you imagine before the next Gears of War comes out? Can you imagine them doing a Gears of War anime or a Gears of War movie or a Gears of War TV show?
They've been talking about doing that for a while now.
Listen, this is the time to start doing this stuff. I know back in the day there was hit or miss, but now with those production quality factors that we're talking about and what you can see on the sales side, when it crosses over, when it is canon, when it ties into your games or vice versa, that amplifying effect of success, there is no reason why we don't have something like this.
Yeah.
And I agree. Again, I'm going to double down. Anime may have been a niche genre at one point. Cartoons may have been for kids. It's not anymore.
It's not no more. No,
it's not. You do it right. You go get a studio like Trigger to make something out of your IP, and you put in the work to tie everything together. This is what you're going to see. I would love to see a Gears of War anime. I think it would be freaking amazing. Because in anime too, you can do all the gore. You can do all the crazy shit that you can't necessarily do in a live action. Right, exactly. So you take that, it's a natural translation. Transmedia is the new way forward. IPs that go across all forms of entertainment are the new way. And in Microsoft and Xbox, even without the ABK deal, already own a ton of it that they could do, that they could create a new game for and have some tie-ins. I think this is the new way forward. I'm so happy for CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk right now, Steel. I feel like a proud papa who's been out here praising their kids, saying, no, my kid's not a bad kid. You just don't understand. My kid's not, he's a great kid. And then you watch him blossom and all of a sudden everybody goes, oh yeah, look at that kid. Look at that kid. He's got talent. Yeah, that's what's happening with Cyberpunk right now. And I'm so happy for this. But again, I wanted to bring this up just because of the transmedia aspect. I think this is ultra important. I think every single company who owns IP needs to look at this and take this roadmap and work it because, man, there's could be a lot of great stuff coming out.
Yeah, 100%. I'm right there with you as far as the Cyberpunk train goes. If anybody here, or maybe you're new if you don't know, again, I'm going to recommend to you to go play Cyberpunk right now. It's one of those games where you're going to have those vast differences in a game. You can spend 50 hours like I did, or you can spend 300 hours like my wife and Pong have and get that full experience. I mean, I want more from the game. I'm looking forward to see more. I haven't watched Edge Runners yet, again, because I just don't have that same amount of time just to watch TV or whatever the case. But I am going to end up watching it. I mean, I do make that time and everything, but just haven't had a moment to yet. But I am extremely excited for it, and to see the anime to cause this huge influx of players to jump into Cyberpunk is super exciting to me because it's like two things traversing each other, like crossing over with each other, and people from both sides of the spectrum having conversation now, right? Oh, did you see this in an anime? Oh, did you see game? Oh, what'd you think about this? There's more potential for that to open up even more. And now, boom, even those CD Projekt Red got a lot of flack, got a lot of hate. Game came out very unstable for a lot of people. Again, I had my issues with it in the beginning, but this is a surefire way, again, to solidify yourself as a game developer that knows how to make games or knows at least how to create an IP. Cyberpunk has been something that has been teased for a while. I'm sure the idea is not new, but Cyberpunk 2077 is new as an IP, and I can't wait to see how that grows because there's so much potential with that. Maybe they come out with a third-person mode like they originally wanted to. Bro, there is so much potential to be had there. I want to see more from it, and it gets me excited to, again, when you see those numbers bloom up there, it's just like, bam, it just feels good to be right, you know? I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing.
It does, and it again. I can still hear the criticism. Shout out to Gaz from a Game on Daily. He still has issues with the game that they didn't live up to the promises, that they didn't give him the fully immersive city and all that kind of stuff. And yes, again, there was a lot of stuff cut from it. It didn't live up to all the promises that they had talked about originally. But for me, I'm not going to hold that against to a game that I sat down and by the end of it, when I finished it, I sat back and that game to this day still pops up in my head. Like the decisions that I had to make, and yes, the decisions throughout the story, some people argue that they're not as impactful as the Witcher 3 decisions that you made and the consequences. But I would say that some of the side missions from an emotional standpoint left as much or more impact than The Witcher 3. And I haven't played through the whole Witcher 3. Everybody knows that already. I'm going to go back and play it when the current gen plops through. But I'm saying as of right now, to me, the emotional impact that was left by this game and the final decisions and consequences that you had to make in Cyberpunk, listen, some of the most impactful I've ever had in a video game, probably the most impactful I've ever had in a video game. And I think that's why it's still worth it. So yes, it didn't live up to all the promises. Yes, it's still not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But again, from what it's delivering, as far as one of the biggest Western RPG open sandbox outside of Bethesda that's ever been made, it is a freaking fantastic, fantastic game and well worth it. And it's just so happy people are discovering it again.
Yeah.
Look at you eating.
I am eating because I'm dumb
Professional
hungry.
Podcaster.
I'm dumb hungry. But no, I do 100% agree because, again, some people will sleep on games. Some people are, derive off of other people's or kind of make their existence based off of other people's opinions. And again, it is damn sure one game that I would say, hey, if you trust my opinion, jump into it. Without a shadow of a doubt. Let's see what else we got down on here. Hey, it wouldn't be right if me as an Iron Man fan.
Oh.
didn't come on my own podcast and talk about Monolith. Monolith, right? Monolith, oh God, and I just had it. Why? It was just right there. Look, what was their 2 games, Pong? They had 2 games under the belt so far, I believe.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm doing other other stuff.
My fault. I know.
no, that's
it's a little
okay.
bit.
What'd you say? Monolith?
Yes.
Lord of the Rings?
Okay. So, EA has buckled down and said, you know what? Those Anthem assets that you guys got so excited about, that you keep clamoring on us about, and say that we need to use for something, and say, hey, this is the Iron Man experience that we've all been wanting. Since this game has released, we're going to put to use. We canceled this game. We got to make some money off of it somehow. And you'd be damn crazy if you think that they're not about to reuse the shit out of Anthem. I'm just saying. But with that being said, I do think that leaves ample room for them to create a non-comparable Iron Man experience, right?
Still, let me correct you here. I'm sorry. Again, I was doing too much in the background, so I wasn't paying attention. It's not Monolith making Iron Man. Monolith is part of WB.
Sorry.
The EA, it's Motive. It's Motive Studio.
Why did I get that confused? I'm a duck.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I'm not paying attention, so it's my fault. I was
everybody put a duck in chat because I'm a duck. I was thinking, yeah, quack for sure, because I was damn sure thinking about Motive, and I'm talking about Monolith. That's why I didn't start talking about the Nemesis system. If you guys are new here, every time I've talked about Monolith, I bring up the Nemesis system. So it's kind of like, hey, you put 2 and 2 together, you start figuring out. I think Steel's talking about Motive actually, but yeah. So.
And Motive for you, Steel. Motive for your original question. Now that I'm back on, sorry, chat, for the confusion here. Again, had I been paying attention as a good co-host should, I would have caught Steel and fixed this right away. So it's my fault too. Listen, so it's Motive, and Motive did Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yes.
In collaboration with DICE. They helped out with that. They did Star Wars Squadrons. They did. They did some. They're doing Dead Space remake as well, and now the Iron Man.
Thank you. Hey, thank you, Def Leppard, for the ducks. Because that was definitely a duck scenario. I'm thinking about one thing and saying another. I hate when that happens. It is what it is. But with that being said, EA Motive. Again, as you heard Pong say about their pedigree, they did help with Star Wars Battlefront 2. You could probably consider them as part of the reason why they were able to get that ship turned around, possibly. Again, it started off really rough, ended up being something that was a pretty solid experience from what I've played. Although I can also say Battlefront 2 didn't give me the same experience, at least to me, that I remember from back in the day. But that's neither here or there. It's different. This gets me 100% excited because at least I do know that we have people that are going to be working on this game that have some pedigree to them. Star Wars Squadrons was solid. Battlefront 2 was solid. I do think that if they properly use all the assets that they already have for a game that they got canceled through EA, they could come out with something that is going to be extremely magical. The only thing for me, though, is because of what Sony is trying to do with their version of the Marvel gaming universe, I'm going to call it the MGU. Their version of it, I don't know if it's ever in their plan to involve Iron Man. Again, they got Miles Morales in there. They're going towards the Venom route. At some point, getting the Avengers involved would be another route, depending on how they go with Spider-Man. Maybe Spider-Man only gets 3 games. Who knows? I think it's going to end up getting. I think Spider-Man is going to be something that's going to be around for a while now, depending on how they keep evolving the game. But said enough ducks. We need a goose now, 100%.
Def Leppard gave him his goose.
He's stupid. But yeah,
this is fraught with danger. Still,
what you mean?
This game is fraught with danger for EA.
Why you say that?
Because the assumption is from everybody is they're going to use the Anthem flying. If they don't, Steel, if Motive did Squadrons, so they've got flight experience, right?
Yeah.
They've done a flying game, so they've got it. But if they don't use the Anthem animations. Do you know the uproar? I don't care if it's good. I don't. Everybody and their mother in this community. I'm not talking about the casual who's going to go buy it. It's Iron Man. It's going to be huge. It's going to be big no matter what. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about in this community. For anybody who knows what's going on, if EA does not use the Anthem tech to make Iron Man come to life, bro, the uproar in this community is going to be ridiculous. Like, I could already see it coming from a mile away. This is a train wreck waiting to happen.
Hey, man.
Because expectations are already set.
I'm going to be in an uproar because, goddamn, I mean, that doesn't make any sense at that point. Like, it's like you're intentionally going against, like, you know, those people that intentionally, they just go against the grain. They have to do the opposite thing because they want to be different.
Yeah.
Like Motive, you don't have to do anything different. Reskin it, put Iron Man on it, change all the characters in the game, shrink the game down. No, you know what? Don't even shrink the game down. Just completely reskin it. Add a lot more enemies, make it next gen only, and leave it at that. I think you have a high potential. I'm just saying. And it's a single player focused game. Bro, you could do a lot with this. Play your DLC, this could be Xbox. What if Xbox gets this game exclusive?
No, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. I think Sony would end. What if Sony gets this game exclusive?
Nah, not going to happen.
You don't think so?
No, EA ain't going to cut that deal. Iron Man's too big of an IP.
I don't think so either. Especially with the last 20 years of the MCU and everything. I do think that Iron Man. This is actually the perfect time to bring Iron Man to the forefront because because of the movies and everything. Now Robert Downey Jr. is not going to be part of the movies, at least as we know yet anymore. So it is the perfect time to kind of reboot the identity of Iron Man, and also kind of tell your own story. So that'd be really exciting and enticing to see. Because the other thing too is that we could get another series, right, of different style superhero games, right? This could be Motive's first track on that path. From here, they could do a Moon Knight game. From here, they could do a Daredevil game. From here, they could do multitude of different things after this, and they springboard. I don't know. It's gonna be really dope.
Shizno, and Spider-Man's a specific situation because of the movie rights and because of what Sony does have control. They leveraged what they do have as a Spider-Man IP. They can't leverage Iron Man. Yeah, they went out and got Wolverine and made that deal. What I'm saying is EA as a corporation, I don't think will make anything exclusive when it comes to a superhero game. I just don't think they'll do it. I think they see too much sales potential.
Yeah, and Tim the Sorcerer, you're 100% right. We assume Motive Studio has access to BioWare's resources of Anthem. They're under EA though, bro. Like, if EA doesn't allow you access to assets that are already there, EA, like, I don't. Again, I say that these companies shouldn't be dumb, but they do some dumb things sometimes.
Yeah.
Ideally, if it were me in this situation, if we were announcing we make an Iron Man game, I would go directly into wherever this stuff is being held and say, hey, here is Anthem next that we canceled. Make the Iron Man game. That also puts you at least 3 years ahead of dev time. So now you just need to make a story and then develop the game. And at least that's how I'm thinking about it.
The other problem is too, Steel, is that Motive might not want to work on the Frostbite, which is what Anthem was created on, right?
You know what? God damn it, Pong.
Yeah, I know. That's the other problem. Right.
Right.
That's the other problem.
But what if
if they don't want to?
But what if Motive can figure out the Frostbite engine and they could? Maybe that's what happens.
Maybe
not. Probably not. Frostbite's been kind of an issue. I don't know. We'd be dope to see if we can get an Unreal 5.
Yeah.
At least you have the concept for it. You know what you're kind of going for.
It would be. Yeah.
You'd be something. It's not like you're trying to recreate. Well, of course you're going to recreate it, but it's not like you're trying to come up with the flight mechanics from thin air. At least you have a basis that you can come off of.
Whatever they do, Steel, they have, again, it's so, again, that's why the expectations are what they are, is because the flight mechanics have to be so right for Iron Man, and it's sitting there, like you said, in plain sight with Anthem, that it's hard for people not to have that expectation. they've got to nail the flight. Again, they can't screw this up.
Again,
like it is,
exactly, and that's exactly what I thought. Lord Master Jasper said Battlefront 2 was a frostbite. The game did play well.
Oh no, Frostbite's a great idea. It's got its place. It's just, with the history of EA forcing their devs to use it and it not turning out so well. Anthem, case in point. It's I just don't want to see motive get put in. They've worked on Battlefront. They helped with Battlefront, so they've got experience on it. So maybe that'll lend them to do this. We'll see. Like I said, this is just going to be. I think it was just interesting from the standpoint of what the community's expecting and what actually happens here is going to be probably two different things. We'll see.
I mean, I legitimately hope not. I really do. Again, like we're saying here, they have it right there in front of them. My idea, they literally just take Anthem and just make it a smaller experience. Because honestly, at the end of the day, if you refine the experience more, I think you would save yourself a lot of the headache. And still be able to use Frostbite, and then at least you get your first game out there, and then the second game, maybe that's when you swap the engine up.
Maybe.
And, you know what I'm saying? Or something to that. I don't know. Or they make another iteration of Frostbite. I don't.
We'll see. No, I mean, Frostbite's got its Frostbite for Frostbite for a superhero type game has its advantages, right? Because you got Levolution, you got destructibility, which you're going to have, right? I mean, obviously, Iron Man's going to be blasting up stuff. So there's a lot of benefits to Frostbite for a superhero game. So if they can make it work, then so be it. It's just, no, I agree. Everything's blown up, right? Everything's blown up out of proportion. I understand that. That's a part of the industry. That's part of anything, entertainment, right? Movie shit gets blown up all the time. Listen, I understand it. It is overblown in a lot of ways. But at the end of the day, EA has moved away from requiring all their studios to work on Frostbite, thanks to Vince. In Zampella, we trust, because Zampella hates the Frostbite engine and does not want to work on it and said, screw you, EA. And now, so that's moved away from them requiring their studios to do it. I'm just saying it's a part of the conversation, just because Anthem, you can't. If you played Anthem, there is no way you can tell me that those flight mechanics are not perfect for Iron Man.
The game sells itself. It sells itself.
Right, there's no way. So that's why the expectation's out there. Whether right, wrong, or indifferent, it's just such an easy translation to make if you played Anthem, to know that just makes too much sense at the end of the day, which means they probably won't do it. And Shizno, you also said Marvel makes the final decisions, though, and they let Sony slap them around with Spider-Man and Wolverine. Would not be surprised if they do it with Iron Man. My counterpoint to you would be the Avengers from Square Enix. They didn't make Square make anything outside of Spider-Man be exclusive. So Square got to publish Avengers everywhere, right? So that's why I think EA, again, probably made the deal under the contract that it was going to be multi-platform, no matter what. That's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I would say about that is that Sony dealing directly with Marvel too, whereas Sony would have to deal with EA and then, with Disney, sorry, not Marvel. They would have to deal with EA and then Disney, or likewise do with Disney and then EA. Like, Disney's not going to go to EA and say, "Nay, you're going to force this game to be on PlayStation." Like, that's not going to happen. Versus you doing a deal directly.
Right. And still, we're getting buffering on YouTube, just so you know. It's been happening to a lot of different streams. So I don't know if it's on your end or if it's just YouTube. YouTube's been having problems. Shout out to Dirk Griggity and Shawn yesterday. They were doing TTS and they got cut off completely. So it was happening all day yesterday on different shows. So I'll
put it to you like this. If you guys are getting buffering, I greatly appreciate you guys for being here. Greatly thank you guys. I guess we'll wind it down then, because it's not stopping. I know YouTube will fix it on the back end. So there is that. So if you guys can't really hear it now, it's getting super choppy. It's saying that my connection is where it's supposed to be at. It's dropping now, though. Again, it's been doing it intermittently, kind of throughout the show today. But it is what it is. We'll work through it. I'll work some things out in the back end. We'll be all right. I know that it will be okay for anybody that tunes into it afterwards. YouTube will stitch it. We'll fix it and make sure it's smooth. So, again, I greatly apologize for the issues popping up here. Does take away from the experience, so we may not have as many people in chat. But I guess this would be a perfect time to ramp it down then.
Shout out to you, Boom, for dropping in here, brother. You know you drop in anytime, man. If you can't drop in, you can't drop in. We know you're going to listen to it later.
Exactly. Greatly appreciate you, Boom.
That goes for everybody.
And Hyperfang, as far as we know,
yeah,
don't know if you're going to end up hearing this, but Midnight Sun, no, Spidey's not exclusive then.
No, and actually, Firaxis came out and talked about that because somebody actually brought that up during one of their dev interviews and asked them about Spider-Man and asked them if it was hard to get it not exclusive, and they said no. Honestly, there was no problem getting Spider-Man at all. So
because they're not using that same
version.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You just can't. Yeah, it works out for them. There's ways to do it that may not make sense. He said Def Leppard said it's really not that bad, and then he said no, it's good now. It's kind of dropping all over the place. I'm still dropping frames on my end really heavily. So again, if you guys are here, definitely hit that like button for us. Continue to share us out. And again, it will fix itself on the back end. I guess, Paul, I mean, was there anything else that you'd like to get into before we maybe possibly start ramping it down, man?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to go back and see if there was anything else we missed. Well, Steel, I kind of want to get your thoughts on on certain Affinity and the Battle Royale stuff that came out. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to get your take on this as well. We had an article from Ventures Beat. I'll read while you're doing your stuff. Dean Takahashi from Venture Beat came out with an article. It said Blizzard veteran Paul Sams recently became the president and chief operating officer at the game studio Certain Affinity after serving a few years as strategic advisor. Sams is working with the founder and CEO, Max Hoberman, former Bungie multiplayer and online lead. He is basically the father of what we know as Halo Online. Who founded the Austin, Texas-based and Toronto-based company in 2006. Sams is being tapped to help lead growth so that Certain Affinity, which has worked on over 30 titles like Call of Duty, Halo, World of Tanks, Left 4 Dead, and Hearthstone, can go to the next level. Most of its work so far has been helping other developers complete their ambitious games. Now it's making its own intellectual properties. I spoke with Sams and Oberman about running the studio at a time when the game market is in a state of flux as world economic conditions and a tough gaming cycle add uncertainty. They said they will focus on developing a quality-based culture and leveling up the skill of the team. The company has 240 employees and it is hiring. Sam spent 20 years at Blizzard where he held the role of COO, and he was recently the CEO of Ready at Dawn Studios, the maker of Lone Echo and The Order 1886. Certain Affinity worked on Halo Infinite and is still working with 343 Studios on the other title. So I won't go into the whole interview here. It's quite long. But Steel, what I want to get your opinion on, we found out that they've got over 100 of their devs. Almost half their studio is working on the Battle Royale for Halo Infinite, right? And there was some more news that came out this week about the Battle Royale, not confirmed, some stuff being heard behind the scenes, that they're going to take the Battle Royale in a different direction. That it's still going to have the core play, Battle Royale, but it's going to be more strategic. It's going to be about control points, that your loot is not going to be necessarily looted from other players that you kill, but from the points that you're holding. And I think Jasper said last night, more like the special weapons part.
Reconnecting symbol, and now saying reconnecting now.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Not worried about it. But we want to mute it again real quick. People keep going. But again, I think Certain Affinity is going to be the ones to kind of really breathe full life back into Halo. Because it's going to get the attention of a lot of people from the outside, right? It's going to get people talking, hey, this good game mode is doing really well, and there's a lot of people in it, and the systems in it is cool. The base mechanics of Halo are working flawlessly, so you know I mean, again, it's not like they're making some completely different game. It's still based off of Halo Infinite. So the basics of the game is already there. You just have to put the game mode together. And you're spending 3 years making a game mode. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd hope that these over 100 people could put a game mode together. Because there's people who are going to have Forge and are putting Toy Story maps together in less than a day. No, that's not a game mode, but goddamn, it's not small feat either. And it kind of also kind of ties into people saying that, man, Halo's getting all of this help and it's still struggling. But it also speaks to, again, for me personally, people can say Halo's dead or whatever the case, or it's dying, and say whatever you want, man. Dark 1985 brought up another funny point. I wanted to bring it here because I just thought it was interesting. And Pong, you tell me how you kind of feel about this. Because you brought up the point, because people were talking about games being trash, right? And he brought up the perspective that, typically when a game is trash, you won't put more than maybe 10 hours in it, right? If a game is like, if you really don't like a game, you're not going to force yourself to play the game, right? He brought up a point. He did like a little bit of his own experiment, and he was like, he basically came to the conclusion that, look, if you put over 25 hours in the game's not dead, and you got your experience out of it, right? So whether you consider that good or not, I guess that's up to the eye of the beholder. But at the end of the day, he said a lot of what he was seeing was people putting over 40 hours into the game and complaining about it. So when did you decide that the game was trash? When you didn't have any more content to play? Well, the game's not trash. It just doesn't have any content. Multiplayer content. I mean, Anthem had some of the same problem, but Anthem also had base mechanic problems. Halo doesn't have that. If content is the only issue that the game is having, and you as a player, like a person like myself, I probably have at least over 300 hours in Halo. Probably. I might be a bit off in that because I haven't booted up Halo in a bit. But I have a lot of time in Halo. I don't look back on that and be like, man, I really regret my experience with that game. I don't think about it like, man, I really wish I could be playing Halo right now. No, I could play Halo right now. But I'm playing Amnesia. I'm playing games like Synced. I'm playing games like 2K. I'm playing Modern Warfare 2. I'm playing other games. I got things that can hold me over until Halo gives me a reason to want to play. And again, it's not like it's a negative because it's nothing against the game. But at the end of the day, either the game's going to live and get supported or it's not. Until the game stops getting support, I'm not going to say the game's dead. Because it's not. They need to figure the shit out. And I think certain Affinity has that special recipe that they need. They are going to be the ones, along with Forge. Forge is going to do it first, of course, right? That's going to be the first step. People are going to get into it. They're going to have it for about maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Maybe Forge comes out in the full. It comes out of beta or whatever, because we're still getting Forge in beta when it releases this year. Keep that in mind. Maybe when we get the full version of Forge in 6 months, boom, certain Affinity drops. Hey, Halo Battle Royale, come check it out. And it becomes this phenomenon that nobody else can compare to. Now it's bigger than Apex. Now it's bigger than PUBG. Now it's bigger than, well, of course, you can't be bigger than Fortnite because Fortnite is full of cultural appropriation. So it's like, you can't get around that. Like, it's going to appeal to anybody regardless. But let's say Halo starts getting that track on and they do start involving, like you start getting your Doom characters in Halo. Start getting these characters into Halo. You start getting these other like it starts really mixing it up for you and everything. Certain Affinity drops it on top. Boom! Now everything is kind of mixing and matching, and everything is as it should be. Again, we can have the conversation of, oh wow, a whole other studio needed to come through and save Halo. Hey, that's your perspective, sure. And Halo doesn't need saving; it just needs content. That's it. So you take that as you want. You think that I'm capping. You think that I'm fronting. You think that I'm, however you take that. I'm not the negative Nancy about games like that. I'll speak my mind on them, especially games that I'm passionate about. I can say that I am biased about Halo, but I can also be honest about Halo because, I haven't played it in a while. So to each their own. You mix that up however you'd like, and no other judgment from Looks like we're still dropping frames here and everything. But was there anything else that you kind of wanted to add on to? Was that like a good answer for?
No, absolutely, I just think that certain Affinity knows what they're doing. Certain Affinity has worked on so many different games, and I think that this is going to be, like you said, Forge first. Forge is going to be a huge boost. Again, the things we're seeing. I just saw the freaking Shire from fucking Lord of the Rings being built. Like it's ridiculous. And like you said, it's not gameplay per se, but the fact that they're going to give the ability to the creative community to create all these new experiences in Halo is going to be a huge boost. But then I think certain Affinity, with their expertise, they're going to bring that flavor that a lot of people in 2022 feel was missing. And not to say that somebody in Forge is probably going to create a battle royale mode before certain Affinity even drops their game,
100%.
right? That is probably going to happen. So, but certain Affinity being, really good at what they do, I think is going to inject the community with an official battle royale mode, inject the community with new excitement. Like I've always said, Halo's not going anywhere. Halo's not dying. Halo may not be the juggernaut it was back on Halo 2 and Halo 3. Yeah. It'll never recapture that moment again in time because the industry was so different back then, and Halo was groundbreaking. Halo was changing the industry as a whole, as where it was going. So you're never going to be recapture that. But that doesn't matter in 2022. In 2022, if you put out good content, you offer something as this type of model does, where it's a living experience that changes over time, that the devs add things to, that a group like Certain Affinity can come in and drop a brand new mode, and automatically has a chance at coming back and exploding, everywhere. And I think that's exactly what Certain Affinity can do. I said it last night. I think Certain Affinity has to stay away from because they're not 343, because this is an add-on mode. Certain Affinity has to take the freedom that they have, and do what they want to do with
add
this.
Their twist to it.
Right. And they can't listen to the community. The Halo community is so divided anyways. Again, 343 is kind of locked into that because they're making whatever. If you think you've got that magic cooking, don't change it because you think you're going to make a portion of the Halo community unhappy. Don't do it. Don't care about that. Move forward, drop this thing, and see what happens. I'm all for Certain Affinity having creative freedom here and doing what they want to do with it. So I can't wait to see Steel. And I do think it comes out next year as well. I think it has to drop next year for sure.
Yeah, more than likely. We're getting DDoS. No. It's probably just YouTube bugging out, man. It is what it is.
Yeah.
All good there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is going to be.
Not course. I don't know, Becky. What?
That. I don't know, Becky. That randomly popped up in my ear. That was strange. Well, I think that's gonna be the perfect time to end this show right here, but not before we get into our This Day in Gaming segment. Again, I know the audio listeners like to get into that. It mixes it up because we got to let the people know where we've come from to where we are today within the gaming industry. Let's get into it, man. Give me a moment here as I pull some things up because I had to try to close a bunch of things here because frames were dropping. I was trying to see if anything would help it, but it doesn't seem as though. Gotta love it when the right on top of. Maybe some people would like it that way. What do you guys think? Anybody listening to it afterwards, all this choppy BX. All right. So, in this day in gaming, and now I can't talk. We're starting in 1999. Like Prince said. What like it's 1990. All right, let's go. So, in 99 on September 24th, we had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure released as an arcade game. I didn't even know that JoJo's has been around for that long.
Yeah, JoJo's been around forever, brother.
That is fucking insanity to me. Wow, okay. Then in 2000, you got PC with Baldur's Gate 2, Shadows of Out to Baldur's Gate. And then in 2001, PlayStation 2 dropped ICO or ICO. And then it also dropped Silent Hill 2. Then in 2003, the Game Boy Advance released Digimon Battle Spirit 2.
Okay.
Not familiar with that one. Then in 2007, PC released, this is actually a pretty well-known game, Company of Heroes Opposing Fronts.
Freaking fantastic.
Good game. Then in 2009, the PSP released Naruto Shippuden Legends Akatsuki Rising.
We always got to have one Steel special title in there. That's
always.
Awesome. Yeah.
Then in 2010, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 released Dead Rising 2, which is actually the last Dead Rising that I played. Really good time. I like Dead Rising 2 a lot.
Love Dead Rising. Dead Rising's great. Got to come back.
Then in PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 released Guitar Heroes, Warriors of Rock.
Shout out to Guitar Hero. Probably going to make a comeback if this
so.
acquisition goes through. Phil talked about it. It's about time.
Yeah. Then in 2013.
For everybody else.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd jump into it. I love this. Then in 2013, PlayStation 3 dropped. Again, I played this on 360. And I can't wait for Armored Core to come back. But Armored Core Verdict Day.
Yeah.
Crazy to think there hasn't been an Armored Core game since almost 10 years. Then PlayStation 3, PSP, and Xbox 360 released FIFA 14. And by the way, we were talking about somebody making a Battle Royale mode in Forge. There's already somebody that did it. Who was working on it. He dropped in with a drop pod as a Spartan. He had a chest to pick up some loot from, and then there was another drop pod that came out of space, and with a special weapon.
Nice.
Again, the content's going to be there, bro. I'm shit's going to blow up. All right. Then in 2015, PC released Final Fantasy V. PlayStation 4 released Saint Seiya Soldier's Soul. Not the same. Then PlayStation 4 released, I'm going to try, Uta Aware Rumano, Mask of Deception in Japan.
Just why can't they just do Mask of Deception? Just leave it at that.
No, because it had to be called Uta Aware Rumano. That's a better name, I guess. Then in 2009, Nintendo Switch released Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger 9, or IX.
Yeah. All just came to Xbox as well. Gunvolt
nice.
Mega Man clone.
Oh, wow. Okay, damn.
Yeah, very good game.
Then Nintendo Switch released Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. That's
freaking amazing. Freaking amazing game.
It also came out on PlayStation 4. And then PlayStation 4 also got The Surge 2 in 2000.
Mm-hmm. Souls-like. Kind of cool game.
Then in 2020, Nintendo Switch released Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Complete Edition.
Yes.
And then in 2021, Xbox Series X released Lost Judgment, and then PC released The Boondock Bondmaid.
Nice. Lost Judgment. I gotta play that yet.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is your This Day in Gaming on September 24th of 2022. I do want to thank you all for joining us today. If you are still here, tuning in through all the BS that's happened, all the drop frames and everything. Hopefully we're coming through for you clean now. Again, episode 74 is in the books. And another exciting episode, man. A lot to talk about again. 4-hour episode, had nothing but passion and intensity throughout this entire episode. Again, started off on a little bit of a different note, but I felt like it was an important topic to talk about. Switching up some things. I know some people say, oh, everybody talks about the same things, and I like to switch things up and add some real life conversation to it also. So that'd be really dope. Living Splitscreen. I can go into that real quick. Nix, thank you. I appreciate you. This is why I enjoy. Hey, the fact that you're still here through all of that is a beautiful thing to me. Nick says, Living Splitscreen. Still, if you have a chance, can you give your thoughts on the Gundam free-to-play game if you played it? Thanks. Nix is talking about Gundam Evolution. Gundam Evolution is a Overwatch clone, basically.
So a hero shooter.
Yes, it is a hero. It's basically a hero game. I am kind of up in the air about it currently. I played it during the beta. I had a decent little time with it, but it did need to be refined. Now that the game is out, it does feel a bit better control-wise. And again, I'm playing with controller. This is definitely one of those games where you'll have an advantage using mouse and keyboard. Not gonna lie. I can feel it. I can tell. But that doesn't take away from the fun times I have had with it. I've only played since the game has come out. I've probably only ran about 4 matches. First 3 matches I had a really good time with. My last one was kind of like, it was a little more off-putting. It could have just been the people we were playing against, some sweaties or something that might have been playing the game for a minute, but they just completely ransacked us and made me just see a bunch of flaws in the game that kind of also turned me away from Overwatch 2. Overwatch also. The thing for me about multiplayer games is because I've been doing it for so long, I also have the understanding that like me and Pong are playing the Modern Warfare 2 beta and we're playing domination. It is common sense in domination that you capture 2 points and don't capture the 3rd point so they can have a place to spawn from. So that people don't fucking just spawn wherever, because that shit's annoying as hell. And people still do whatever. They still push their spawn, and now you got people spawning where the fuck ever and throwing everything out of loop. So it's like, I like when games give you the opportunity for you to shine and not really depend on other people. And with hero games, it's kind of hard because if you're not working together, you can have a really bad time. Because all the different characters are all set up a certain way, and you're not fighting 5 people with 1 character, right? Like it's just not happening. Now that's an extreme example. Again, I would definitely say if you're a Gundam fan, I would say check it out. If you're a fan of Overwatch, I would say check it out. If you like hero games, I would say check it out. It seems like a good time. But it's one of those that are definitely on the bottom half of my rotation. I'd rather play 2K than play Gundam Evolution. I'd rather play Gundam Battle Alliance, SD Gundam Battle Alliance, than play Gundam Evolution. It's not a multiplayer game that I'm like teetering towards right now, but I haven't played it with anybody else either. So that could be another part of it, because I was just playing it by myself. But I can't say that I would at least touch it off and on. And Nix, it's free to play. I would say download it, give it a shot. It has a good little intro to get you introduced to the game and the mechanics and how everything works. I had to change some of the button layouts for myself to make me a little bit more comfortable, because some of it is strange. Like it's like Naraka putting the jump button on RB or whatever the case. I was like, the fuck are we doing here? Like, why? But hey, it's free to play. Check it out. See if you like it. The connection and everything seems fine though. I didn't notice any like hit detection delays or anything like that. So as far as the game, it's playing overall well from what I could tell. But that's my breakdown about Gundam Evolution currently. But
yeah.
With that,
on another note too, download Proteus. Download Proteus. Check out Proteus. It's in Game Pass. Proteus is an old school Doom style game.
Okay.
But very well done. So if you guys love the old Doom, go check out Proteus. Well worth the download.
Nice.
For sure.
Old Doom used to be stuff.
Oh yeah.
But all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in again, and we're dropping frames like crazy once again, but that's all right, because on the audio side of things, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please, leave us a review. Again, the audio side of things seems to be consistently growing. Like, for the people that are listening on a week-to-week basis, it's been going up, man, and that's pretty dope. So the people are excited to get that content. Whether you get it on Saturday or Sunday, because I'm depending on what my schedule is, and I want to make sure I get some game time in too. So, depending on what my schedule is, I do typically try to get the show out about an hour after the show goes out, ends. And so if it doesn't, definitely expect it sometime within the day or the next. So, but other than that, you can find me, Steel Rain, I still reign I. The T is a 7. Anywhere that has a search bar. Google.
Gaming news never stops, and I love doing these shows, especially with my brothers, and you being one of them for sure. Steel, you know that, and appreciate everything you do behind the scenes for the show, man. As always, in chat, you guys sticking it out, even with the YouTube problems today. Appreciate all of you. If you're listening in the future, again, nothing but love and respect. Anytime anybody comes in and checks us out for 5 minutes or for 4 hours, it does not matter to me and Steel. We just happy that you showed up. So thank you all for being here as well. This is a great Saturday. Love starting my morning this way. Listen, you guys can find me Pong Soul on Xbox, Pong Soul on Twitter. Follow me, I'll follow you back. And then obviously tonight is going to be the Shop Podcast, PTK Blam, Fuzzy Belvedere, myself, and we have Insipid Ghost joining us tonight. That's right, Luke is joining us tonight. One-man team. He is amazing. If you have not checked out his content, I suggest you do. He gets great interviews. He is actor, is one of the ones you always want to hit. Man, Steele's been showing up there a lot. He's got a big panel each and every week. It's all Good Things Green. Tuesdays, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. Double Barrel Gaming is the channel. If you don't already know, go find it immediately. Mr. Boomstick's one of the best out there to do it. And then Thursdays, PM in the PM, Pong and Mav in the PM, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. That's right. We should be back to just a two-man show after 3 weeks of guests. Two-man show this week. Me and Mav breaking it down. Back to a normal schedule. If you didn't know, on Thursday, this week we had Jez, of course, Jez Corden of Windows Central on it. It was an awesome show, but we did it at a special time to fit his Germany time. So go check that out if you haven't already. Fridays, right back on Fun Speculations channel, again with Xbox Ultimate, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. Be there. Again, it's just a great show. We have a fun time no matter what. Lots of laughs. And but we still talk about a lot of topics too, and a great show last night. So go check that out. Otherwise, I'll be back here with my brother from another Steel Rain, getting it in for your Saturday morning cartoons, live, raw, and uncut right here on Living Splitscreen. Otherwise, it is the golden age of gaming, people. Get out there and enjoy it. Have a great rest of your weekend. Play what you love what you play. Check out all this new content dropping, man. It's crazy. Have a great time. We'll talk to you all real soon. You'll get us out of here, bro.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, y'all have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Stay safe. Hey, I'm going to catch you on Modern Warfare 2 beta. Y'all have fun in the open beta, man. Let's go. Much love. Peace.